Doing some quick mic checks here. Mic check, mic check. There we go. Now we're cooking. Good morning. Thank you all so much for being here. I love what I'm seeing, a packed house. Again, thank you for coming and your commitment to amplifying the voices of residents in long-term care. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. The bathroom's located to my left here, along with light beverages and refreshments, so please feel free to help yourselves throughout the day. Also, please direct your attention to the back of the room where we have the Department of Public Health nurse consultant team here, available all day to help address any health-related questions or concerns that arise. I also encourage everybody to silence their cell phones so we can stay fully present and engaged throughout the day. And we value your feedback, so before you leave, please complete the Voices 2025 post-event survey. Paper copies and the QR code to complete it electronically are in the back of your attendee packets. Paper copies can be returned right next to the registration tables at the front on your way out. Your input truly guides next year's forum. Now, in the spirit of resident councils and resident self-direction, may I have a motion to officially begin today's event? I got a first, and I heard a second right off the jump. All in favor? Thank you. I am pleased to note that today's Voices Forum is now in session. And before we get started and I invite Mairead, the State Long-Term Care Ombudsman, up here to formally kick off the day, we will begin, as in our tradition, with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by a resident council president. Today we're honored to welcome John Banks of the State of Connecticut Veterans Home. We're grateful for his service to his country and his ongoing leadership as a resident council president and advocate within the home and within the state. Please join me in welcoming John Banks to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Somebody tall was up here. Good morning. Come on. Thank you, Bobby. Always there for me. Thanks, Bobby. So it is my pleasure to be here today and to welcome you all to our annual Voices Forum. This gathering is about something very simple yet very powerful, making sure that every resident's voice is heard. Today we have joining us nursing home residents, family members, advocates, volunteers, policymakers, legislators, as well as partners from across Connecticut and beyond. Each of you are here because you believe in something bigger than yourself. You believe that people receiving long-term care deserve not only to feel safe and supported, but also to have dignity, respect, and the right to shape their own lives. We're also joined here today by our partners from the Moving Forward Coalition. If you want to raise your hand, Wilson Jennifer. And the National Consumer Voice for Quality of Long-Term Care. We have Lori Smentanka. And you'll see out in the hall, we have other state partners from the Bureau on Aging and the Center for Medicare Advocacy. Please stop and talk with them and get information. We're really happy that they're here. They're willing to support us and they're willing to get information out to all of you. As you can see, this reminds us that this movement is not just statewide, it's national. At its heart, today is about residents leading the way. Your experiences, your courage, your questions, and your stories are the reason why we gather here, and the reason why change happens. Policies and laws may be written in our government buildings, but they're written due to the stories and the experiences that you have in your daily life, and us sharing them with the people that are here and made it a priority to be here with us today. We'll spend today looking at what's happening at a state and federal level, but not just to learn. We want to know, what are we fighting for next? Where do we have to push? What do we have to get across the finish line? Because our work isn't finished until every nursing home community and community-based settings individuals are people that feel valued, safe, free to speak up, as well as to be proud of where they live and to have care team members who are proud of where they work. Today, we're also going to be showing our new training video about the fear of retaliation called Breaking the Silence. We know that too many residents stay silent out of fear. We want to change that. This video is more than a training, it's a promise that your voice matters and that speaking up should never put you at risk. And together, we're going to keep working until that fear no longer exists. We have joining us today also the director of the movie. Hello, Peter. And we have the individual who's helping us put together the education material and the trainings that's going to go out to all of our nursing homes throughout the state. But we didn't just do it for nursing homes this time. We learned, right? We have people receiving long-term services and supports in lots of different settings. So the training and the video this time is going to be educational for residents, as well as individuals receiving home and community-based services, anyone receiving a long-term service and support, their care partners, as well as their other team members in a more formal way. So let's get this forum started. And as we do, I ask you to remember one thing. Your voice is your power. Let me hear you say that. My voice is my power. Great. And when residents speak, when all of us, advocates, family members, and leaders stand beside them, we have the power to change systems and to move policies and to build a better future for long-term care. So thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy the forum. I hope you speak with the people at your table and get to know them, why they're here. And with that, I would like to introduce our commissioner, Amy Porter. She is the Commissioner of Aging and Disability Services here in Connecticut. Amy's committed to ensuring that older adults and individuals with disabilities in Connecticut have access to quality care and a high quality of life. She's incredibly supportive of our program and the work that we do, and I want to thank her for being here. Commissioner Porter.
Good morning, everyone. As Mairead said, I'm Amy Porter, Commissioner for Aging and Disability Services, and I have the privilege of being part of an organization that has the Long-Term Care Ombudsman program within our team. They are amazing. They're small but mighty, so let's give them a round of applause. Mairead talked about your voice is your power, and it is so true. I have seen over the years that I've been coming to Voices, and I've been going to the legislature, and I've been seeing the work of the executive board. I've seen how your voices have been amplified, how they've been then turned into a legislative agenda, and how that legislative agenda has made amazing changes here in the state of Connecticut. So for all of you that have been part of that, thank you. For those of you who are new to this, welcome, and we are thrilled to have you as part of the discussion as the Long-Term Care Ombudsman program works to shape that agenda with you and to make sure that your voices are heard. So my job today is just to say welcome. I'm so happy to see so many people here. It's much more people than last year. So obviously the word is getting out about this great event and the power that this event has. I heard there are people from Fairfield County today. Where are, woo woo. So people traveling a long way. We've got people across the state. We know for some, this is a significant, it's an all day event, right? You need to start early to get here. So we are so thrilled to have all of you here. We're thrilled to have this many people to help us stay focused on what's important, forget all the noise that's around us, forget all the things happening at the federal level, things that could be distracting. We're using that to stay informed, but not to be distracted. Today is about staying focused on what your needs are, what your rights are, and we're thrilled to have this audience. So welcome, everybody.
Thank you, thank you. And I will say we are incredibly lucky here to have such support, again, from our state agencies, my peers, and our commissioners. All right. And with that, I would like to welcome up to the podium Lori Smentanka. Lori, as we said, is from the National Consumer Voice for Quality of Long-Term Care. Lori has been a steadfast partner for Ombudsman programs, not only here in Connecticut, but across the country, and really taking what we have to say and elevating it at a federal level. So with that, I invite Lori up.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really thrilled and delighted. I've been a big fan of the Connecticut Ombudsman program and Mairead for so many years. She's such a leader, not just in Connecticut, but among her peers with respect to the advocacy that she does. And we all learn so much from her. And you know, when we look at models of excellence, we really do look at a lot of what you're doing here in Connecticut. Is there a, okay, great. So I am really thrilled to be here today. As Mairead said, I'm from the National Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care. We are a national nonprofit advocacy organization, and we work with and on behalf of people who receive long-term care and services across the country. And one of my very favorite things to do is to be in a room with residents and advocates and others. And it's just a really special time for me to be able to be up here for a number of different reasons, which, you know, I'll talk about while I'm here. I'm a little nervous this morning. That doesn't happen very often, but I have to say that I am. So, you know, as we get started in terms of thinking about the advocacy that's been done. I've been doing this work for a little over 30 years. You'll see a picture in the thing where I had dark hair. You know, I'm not in that place anymore, and need to update that, right? You know, one of the advocacy is, and we've been talking about it, you know, with others for a long time. Advocacy is a marathon, and as we, you know, start working for issues and to improve conditions and care, you know, you really have to be thinking about it as a marathon. And, you know, the organization that I work for, the National Consumer Voice, so you could move to the next slide, please, is actually go back to the one. Yeah, that one. Thank you so much. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. We were founded, interestingly, as at an annual meeting of a nursing home industry provider association event, where there was really a need during the 70s. There were a lot of abuses and neglect happening in nursing homes, particularly, that were receiving a lot of attention, a lot of government reports. And the founder of our organization, Elma Holder, was working with Ralph Nader at the time, part of the Gray Panthers, was working on developing advocacy programs for a new program that was just being started and developed called the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. She was doing some training with respect to them, and she was connecting with people all over the country who were focused on wanting to improve conditions in nursing homes. She was working with Maggie Kuhn, who was a leader in the Gray Panthers, the founder of the Gray Panthers. And they were invited to this Nursing Home Industry Association annual meeting to talk about nursing home issues. And they wanted to bring the consumer perspective. And they were able to cajole the industry to allow not just the two of them, but also to help them invite a couple other advocates from around the country to come to this meeting to talk about nursing home issues from the consumer perspective. And they ended up inviting 12 other advocates from around the country, which was a little bit of a surprise, you know, to the folks that were hosting the conference. But while they had all been talking together, they decided the night before they were going to be addressing the room of provider associations, that they wanted to get their ducks in a row and kind of talk about, you know, what the issues were that they they wanted to really be focusing on. And so they had a meeting themselves and decided they needed to be developing a united consumer voice for individuals living in nursing homes to talk about what were the most important issues that they were dealing with. And so they founded an organization, at the time was called National Citizens Coalition for Nursing Home Reform. We changed our name about 15 years ago to now be the National Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care. They ended up having a press conference. The Secretary on Aging at the time, Arthur Fleming, happened to be there and walking down the hall, and they pulled him into the press conference where he sat in the front row. And the rest ultimately is history. But it's important to know what your history is, right? And it's important to know what the issues were that they were talking about. And I'm sure that you won't be surprised when I tell you that some of the concerns that they raised at that conference 50 years ago were related to not enough staff being available in nursing homes. The staff didn't have enough training to meet the needs of the residents that they were caring for. Residents' rights were being violated. There were no protections from abuse. People were being discharged indiscriminately from bad nursing homes. There was not proper oversight from nursing homes that were not actually meeting the care needs for the individuals. And there were real issues with how the public dollars that go into these facilities were being spent. Were they Medicare and Medicaid? Lots of that money goes into nursing homes and long-term care facilities. And there were concerns about how that money was being spent. And there were no checks on that. Anybody surprised at any of those issues? Are we still dealing with those issues today? So, we've been doing this work for 50 years. And again, while I'd like to say that we have solved all of those things at this point, clearly we haven't. We're still working on them. But the fact of the matter is that the voices of the people that we've been working with, the voices of advocates around the country are really important in order to make those steps forward, in order to affect and implement change in long-term care, and in order to ensure that people are actually receiving care and services that they need. And so when our organization was founded, and if you could go to the next slide, please, there are a few different ways that we work at the National Consumer Voice. We advocate for public policies that support quality care, quality of life, protection of rights, and that are responsive to consumer needs. And one of the important things about our organization is from the very first time it was founded, residents of long-term care facilities were part of the decision-making process, always on the board of directors. We've always had residents and family members on the board of directors, always a part of the work that we do, so that we're not making things up, pie out of the sky. We're getting input from the people that are having actual lived experience. And that's something that this forum really highlights, the importance of having the people with the lived experience providing and directing the policies that are being worked on. We've worked to empower and educate consumers and families with knowledge so that they can self-advocate, so that you can be your own best advocate, so that you know what your rights are, what you should be expecting, and how to get help when it is that you need it. We've worked to train and support other advocates. I mentioned the long-term care ombudsman program and how Elma Holder was one of the first trainers of ombudsmen, and that has continued to this day. We're really thrilled that we house the National Long-Term Care Ombudsman Resource Center, where we provide support, training, and services to ombudsman programs across the country and help them be advocates and equip them to be advocates as well for people that they serve in long-term care facilities. But it's not just ombudsmen, it's other advocates as well, citizen advocates and other groupings and other people that are interested in making a difference in long-term care. And we also work to promote the critical role of the direct care workers in long-term care and highlight best practices, because two reasons. One is we know staffing is key to quality care. If you don't have enough staff, if you don't have staff that are well-trained, if you don't have good supervision, if you don't have good leadership, there's no way you're going to get quality care. And we need to know where we're going in terms of knowing what best practices are. We need to know what we're working towards and what we are achieving. So those are really, the guiding stars of the work that we do. You can go to the next slide, please. I just put up a slide that, we have a website with a lot of information, that people can access and download for free. And I didn't want to spend a lot of time on that. And if you go to the next slide, please, there are a lot of different issues that we work on, some of which, we can really point to some good accomplishments. I mean, so for 50 years, same issues that we're dealing with today that were being dealt 50 years ago. Have we made progress? Sure, we absolutely have made progress in terms of focusing on, we've got better standards, both at the federal level and at state levels. And our organization was one of the leaders in pushing forward what we call the Nursing Home Reform Act, which was passed in 1987, to really set standards for what you should be able to expect in long-term care in terms of quality care, quality of life, protection of rights, and a number of the different issues related to that. You may have heard people talk about person-centered care and culture change. All of that work stems from and really was built into the Reform Act. So, when we talk about a culture change movement or a person-centered care movement, the work that was done leading up to the Nursing Home Reform Act really was the impetus for the whole culture change movement and for people being given individualized care and person-centered care so that each resident, and in the law it says each resident, not the whole collective of residents, but each resident is entitled to care and services to meet their highest practicable levels of well-being so that everyone is able to achieve that. Now, it's taking us a while to, work through and making sure that each person, gets that level of care. But, that is a win in terms of knowing that you have rights and you have abilities and you have something to rely on and push for when you're advocating for better care. So that's, one of the ways that we've, focused on implementing policies. But there are a number of different issues, that we are continuing to work on. Some of them are highlighted on our website. But as I wanted to talk about some of the different work, I'm just going to go to one next slide before I move on to something else. But one next slide, because this is also Residents' Rights Month. And that is another one of the things that our organization, again, in terms of highlighting the importance of residents in long-term care facilities and raising their voices, designates October as Residents' Rights Month. And residents decided, that's how this all came about, residents decided, 30 years ago that there should be a day that honored them and the rights that, they should be entitled to. And that became a day in October. That extended to a week. And now it's extended to a month so that we have activities all over the country that are focused on Residents' Rights Month. And this is one of the great activities that's happening, but there are other people around the country that are having events similar to this, that are having trainings, that are having celebrations, both in long-term care facilities and broader at the state level. But what I wanted to say was, as I was thinking about, talking about the things that we do and the work that we've done, I didn't want to just kind of put up slides of, of resources or words or things like that. So I've put the next few slides, as I'm going to talk, of people, of some of the residents who have worked with us over the last 50 years, because they are the ones who've really been our inspiration in terms of recognizing what it is that we need to be doing and how we need to be moving forward and keeping us centered on the work that we need to do. So as we think about, things that we've accomplished over the last 50 years, certainly, we do point, regularly to the Nursing Home Reform Act from 1987. And the woman in the top left corner there, her name is Judith Mangum, and she still lives in a nursing home today, but she is one person who has experienced nursing homes from before COBRA to today. She's lived in a nursing home for almost 60 years. And so she's been a real stalwart person who, we can definitely call on and talk to about, what were conditions like prior and how does policy make a difference in your life? And, as we look forward, it's not just a matter of getting the policies in place in law and in regulation. It's a matter of getting them implemented in the long-term care facilities. And, that's what takes, that takes as long as getting some of the policies passed. But, we do focus on a variety of different policies. So one of the ways that we work to do that and really highlight and push for active policy engagement is to raise resident voices about what types of things are needed. What are some of the issues that are that need most attention in terms of the work that you do? And that's one of the things that we really do try to do. We, like you do here in Connecticut, in terms of raising the policy voices of residents, we do that at the national level as well, by trying to make sure that residents are talking to federal policy makers. My annual conference is coming up in just a couple of weeks. We invite area nursing home residents to come to the conference as well. And we ensure that there are federal policymakers that get to have a private dialogue with them. And some people that are actually making decisions about what happens in your life have never talked to a nursing home resident. And that doesn't seem right to us. So it's really important to ensure that the resident voices are being made to be working with the policymakers. And certainly it's really important to be highlighting, again, what some of the issues are. Some other things that we point to in terms of some of the successes in work that we do, our organization was really instrumental in restraint reduction over the last 30 years. Very early on, it was routine to put restraints on residents who were distressed, who were, we try not to use the word agitated anymore. We try not to use the word behaviors, anymore, but people who were distressed and, not able to control their actions or their physical actions were routinely being restrained, physically restrained and chemically restrained. We've had campaigns around that, and we've been able to show real reduction in how that has been really harmful for people. So campaigns are another way we do that. We work a lot in coalitions, and a number of our partners that we've worked with are here today. There's family caregiver groups that we've been working with, and the Moving Forward Coalition, and researchers like Ilan and others who are really critical, because you also can't do the work alone, right? You need to be really working together and bringing your voices, your collective voices together in order to be pushing forward and moving for change. So, so Judith and Kermit Forte is a longtime resident. He used to come into our office and work in our office a couple times a week when I was much younger and had little children. And when my young son was around a year old, he would love to come in and see Kermit in the office. I'd bring him in so that Kermit and he could play together for a while. And Penny Shaw and Yvette Green are longtime residents who have worked with us through the years. If you go to the next slide, please. We can't do advocacy and work, as I mentioned, without resident involvement. And it's the resident stories and experiences that are really critical for getting to any kind of policy change. It's one thing for me to stand up and say, we need stronger residents' rights, or we need, better standards on quality care. But when you stand up and tell your story about what your experience is on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, that's what actually gets policymakers to listen to what the need is for change and to help think about what solutions are necessary in order to get there. And so that's why it's really critical to be involving residents all along. As we talk about the need for resident engagement, as I mentioned, one of the things our organization has been very proud of is being able to bring residents to the table. We've had residents who have been part of Hill briefings and webinars. We have the private conversations with federal officials, like I mentioned. We've had them on podcasts. In fact, Jeanette has been part of podcasts and webinars that we have done. We've had them in private meetings with the administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to inform them about what policies look like. And it makes a difference. It makes an absolute difference when they can point to and say, Jeanette told me that the personal needs allowance is not sufficient in her state. and she's not able to get the necessary things that she needs in order to have quality of life. And so that really makes a difference when you're advocating for legislative change or policy change in order to help make sure that experience is important. And it's also really important to be working in coalitions. That is certainly another big area in terms of involving residents, involving partners, looking for opportunities in order to affect change. And that is certainly one of the things that we try to do. The residents that you see here, we took the woman, the second from the left, the woman in the middle, her name is Robin Guy, and we took her to Capitol Hill to be part of a Capitol policy briefing. Again, because it's different when you have a person who's living the experience, who is actually talking about it. There's a lot more work that needs to be done, though, in terms of continuing to work. And as we work on legislative issues, again, I think we need to be remembering that you can't give up in terms of, you can't think that it's one and done in terms of the actions and things that have to be involved. And until we get to a point when we're talking with residents and families where, residents are saying, I'm able to live the life that I want to live in the place that I want to be and having the experiences that I want, that's when we'll know that we have achieved complete success here. Too many people in long-term care facilities, don't have people who are able to, either they're not able to speak on their own behalf, or they don't have visitors, they don't have family members who are coming in. I mean, we have a strong cohort of family members that are really fabulous advocates sitting here in the room with us today, but more than half of residents do not have regular visitors or family members. And that's why organizations like ours, organizations like the Ombudsman program, and why other residents and families are really necessary to be able to speak up on behalf of them. It's one thing when you look at data, you could say, well, maybe we've improved conditions in certain ways, or reduced the use of restraints, or reduced the chemical restraints that may be used, or reduced incidences of abuse and neglect. And all of that is fabulous. But when you are talking to someone and they're still talking about how they're not being treated with respect and dignity, which happens too often, when I talk to residents, a resident that I met with last week, told me he's only allowed out of bed 3 times a week. He's only allowed out of bed 3 times a week. That's a problem, and that's not him living with dignity. So that's why organizations like ours and why the Ombudsman program and others, are really necessary. When we think about what we're working towards a situation where people have access to choice and quality care that is affordable for them in a location of their setting. And that's really the important things that we're talking about. Some of the residents here on this page, Eduardo, and Robin going across, and Jackie Coombs over to the right. She lived in Washington State. She was on our board of directors. In fact, all the residents I'm showing you today have been on our board of directors at some point throughout our 50-year history. Jackie Coombs used to travel from Washington State 4 times a year to come to our meetings. And down in the middle there, Janet, who I'll talk about in a couple minutes, and Woody Wilson, who was just the most distinguished gentleman that you would ever have a chance to meet. If you go to the next slide, please. Here are some of the current residents that are working with us from across the country, and you'll see Jeanette here, because Jeanette is a part of a group that we call our Resident Advisory Council, which is just what it says. It advises our staff and the work that we do, and it's of residents across the country. Marguerite from the top lives in Ohio, and Maurice in the middle is in Maryland, and Floyd on the right is in Maryland, and Cindy down at the bottom on the right is from Texas. We've got a range of residents who join and come together over Zoom, and it's a really great opportunity to have them recognize and highlight the work that we do. I think we definitely get so much more out of the conversations than I think they do. We try to provide information to them, but it's an opportunity for them not only to talk among themselves, but also to inform us about what they think we should be working on. There are Definitely a number of things that we still have a lot to do and work on. And when you think back to some of the policy priorities that were listed on one of the earlier slides that I mentioned, staffing is really a huge issue. We were very, very close to having federal staffing standards. We're not there yet, and it's one that is the top issue for us to be working on. I know you have a good standard in Connecticut, and certainly that really needs to be enforced and implemented so that every facility has at least a base minimum staffing, but is having enough staff on hand to ensure that every person's care needs are met. And that's one of the top priorities that we're working on and that we work on with the coalition. You may have been hearing in the news over the last several months about changes to the Medicaid program and cuts to Medicaid. We are extremely concerned about what that's going to mean for long-term care. So that is another top priority issue for us. And it's one, again, where you have to be raising your voices to say, if Medicaid conditions were cut, if reimbursement was cut to my nursing home, or Medicaid was cut and I'm receiving either nursing home care or home and community-based services, how would that impact me and my facility? Certainly there's a lot of information out there. If you need more assistance on that, I know that the Connecticut program would have some of that, and we would at our organization as well. But it's really important to say, how would this impact me if these policies are allowed to go forward? We put in a lot of support for the long-term care ombudsman program because they are the critical advocates for people living in long-term care facilities and definitely need stronger support and more resources in order to do their work. And we're spending a lot of time now in terms of priorities and an area where we need to keep pushing around, again, transparency with respect to who owns and operates facilities, so we know who to be talking to when things aren't going right. We need to be able to pinpoint who are the decision makers in these facilities so that they are the ones being held accountable when care is not what it should be, as well as ensuring that the money that's being put into long-term care, the billions of dollars through Medicare and Medicaid, are actually being put towards direct care and not going to line pockets, which is unfortunately happening in too many instances. And there are other rights-focused issues that are really critical that we're all working on. I know you all have agendas that you work on here in Connecticut. We do as well, looking to improve policies. There are some laws that we're following that would help assist with the transparency and accountability pieces. We're working with the family group on the essential caregiver legislation so that we will never again have a situation where residents are isolated from their families in an emergency situation. We want to make sure that rights are being protected. There's a lot of things that we need to continue to be working on, but certainly focusing on what some of the top issues are and making your voices heard on those are really critical. As we talk about the sharing of information and the need for sharing stories and experiences, the other piece of it is developing relationships. Ensuring that you know who your policymakers are in your state and that they know who you are. Invite them to your nursing home for a tour. Invite them to your nursing home for a community event. Invite them during the election season to hold a forum in your nursing home so that they can hear from constituents, and then invite the community in so that you can have a forum in your community and talk about long-term care issues and be asking them, how are they going to ensure protections for residents living in long-term care facilities? What are they going to be doing to ensure that we're improving conditions, that the money is being spent on care, and that nursing homes that are not doing a good job are being held accountable and the ones that are doing a good job are being supported in that effort, because we have obviously a range of people. And look at who your partners are and look at what the opportunities are. There are a lot of partners who are really interested in working on these issues, not just other residents and families, but other organizations. AARP generally is a strong partner. Many that work in union organizations or Alzheimer's Association. There's a lot of other groups and partners that are really interested in some of these issues. And, working together in a coalition one of the residents on our leadership council who we work with, when we were talking about some work that we're doing with him, he said he wants to ensure that everybody knows that residents want to live and need to be given the right to live their lives the way they want to be doing that. In fact, he said, I wish I had a button that said, residents just want to live. Well, we made him his buttons, and we're going to give him one at our conference next month because he's able to be coming to it. We'll be happy to send buttons, so if you all want them to, you can have them. But that is really critical. You don't go into a long-term care facility and think that your life is over. You should be able to live as vibrant and successful and engaging a life as anyone else in the community. And that's what we're all working towards, right? In order to ensure that people are having the experiences that they want. So with the next slide, please. Where am I on time? Okay. So many of you knew Brian Capshaw, who was a good friend of ours at the National Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care. And I wanted to make sure to acknowledge him as one of the important residents who was part of the work that we were doing and have been doing as part of our organization. And also to highlight him as an example of a resident who not only lived his best life, but also truly made a difference and was a real leader, not just in his nursing home, not just in his community, not just in the state of Connecticut, which you all know is where he's from, but on a national level. Brian became very close to our organization and worked with us for a number of years before he passed. He was the chairperson of our national policy committee for a couple of years and helped really direct the work that we do at the National Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care. The picture on the right is Brian speaking at a mini White House Conference on Aging event that we hosted at our organization. I think that was 2015, maybe. I don't remember exactly what year that was, but I think it was before that. But the man to his left is another person who receives long-term services and supports, and the two women to his right, one is the former administrator for community living, Kathy Greenlee. She headed an agency that focuses on Older Americans Act programs, the Long-Term Care Ombudsman program, oversaw programs that dealt with abuse and neglect. And so she was one of the official listeners and speakers on that panel with him. And the other person there was that year's director of the White House Conference on Aging. But it was having people like Brian who were willing to speak up and raise their voices and again share their experiences and really bring truth to power, which was so important for highlighting so many of the different issues. We're going to be seeing in a little bit the new retaliation video that Mairead mentioned prior. It's an excellent video, but it's hopefully one of those situations where we can get past that fear, we can get past incidences of retaliation and ensure that people are able to speak up. And frankly, for those of you that are here who are speaking up, when you're presidents and vice presidents of resident councils, like so many of you are in the room, you are so brave and empowered to be speaking up not only on behalf of yourselves, but on behalf of the other people that live in your long-term care facilities. And frankly, it's working together through the resident councils that really help coalesce that power and empowerment. And so I want to thank you for all that you are doing. If you go to the next slide, please. One of the key people for residents from very early on, she was one of the founding residents of our organization. Her name is Janet Tulloch. And these are a few pictures that I wanted to share with you because she was a really special lady. She had cerebral palsy. That's what caused her to need some additional care. And go to live in a nursing home. And I had the pleasure of meeting Janet later in her life, and she would periodically call the office, when we were working there. And so she was a really core member of our board of directors for many, many years from the very beginning. And she was really the impetus for quite a bit of the work that our organization did and really helped center the focus of the work that our organization did. And it's because of her that one of the first reports that our organization had done when it was working towards the lead up to what became the nursing home reform law was related to getting resident input into, what are the different issues that needed to be addressed in federal legislation. And in order to do that, they pulled together focus groups and discussion groups of residents across the country. Janet was one of them and participated in one of them in the District of Columbia, but there were focus groups that were held in advocacy groups across the country. And then select members from those groups came together at a symposium that was held in Florida. So all of, each group selected a few residents to represent them, and plans were made to take everyone to Florida. So the first picture is one of Janet receiving an award. The second picture up top is of her sitting on the beach in Florida during the symposium. And there are a lot of pictures of, the residents at the beach and putting their toes into the water, which was for the first time, for many of them. But it was really critical to be bringing them together to talk about, the different issues. So Janet helped really focus the organization on the types of issues that residents found to be important and helped keep the organization centered. So that one of the first reports that came out was called Consumer Perspectives for Quality Care. And it was the impetus that really led to work done that led to the Nursing Home Reform Act. Janet also had the pleasure of meeting First Lady Barbara Bush while she was in the White House as part of some policy advocacy that was being done at the time. There was an opportunity to have Mrs. Bush meet with a resident, and Janet was selected for that. That's her protesting down at the bottom with Kermit Forte, who was in one of the earlier pictures, but they're at a protest for poor conditions that were in one of the nursing homes that actually Kermit lived in at the time, and Kermit started a protest in the city of residents and got other residents from around the city of District of Columbia to come and protest with him. And so Janet, of course, was first in line to be participating in that. And then she was an author. She wrote a book called A Home Is Not a Home. And she was very wise and again, really, helped ground and center people on ensuring that residents had choice and were able to direct their lives. And so since Janet was such a special person for all of us, we named an award, a Memorial Advocacy Award in her honor. And I am really thrilled today to be able to give that award. And Jeanette, if you will join me, if you could go to the next slide, please. I'm really thrilled that Jeanette Sullivan Martinez is this year's winner or recipient. What's that? I can come down there for you, but I just can't. I won't be able to talk with the microphone. Jeanette Sullivan Martinez is this year's recipient of the 2025 Janet Tulloch Memorial Advocacy Award.
Here you go, Jeanette.
Oh my God.
Thank you. Come around a little bit. There we go.
That's so beautiful. If I could, yes, I'll read it to you. So this says the 2025 Janet Tulloch Memorial Advocacy Award to Jeanette Sullivan Martinez for outstanding advocacy to improve the quality of care and life of residents of long-term care facilities.
First and foremost, thank you so very much. It is an honor to be considered ward. Sorry. Thank you. I know this is a safe place. Let me just collect myself for a moment.
Take a breath.
Yeah, breathe, right? Breathe. I am so very grateful for this honor. I have worked for the last 15 years to try to improve life for myself and as well as others living in nursing home, trying to be not only an example, but an encouragement, and to provide support for those that have needed it. I continue to want to make this my life goal. And I am very honored and encourage all of you to keep up the good work.
And she does a crazy amount of wonderful work. So, and thank you both. We can take a picture.
So thank you so much for your attention this morning. That was the highlight, certainly, of a lot of the work that I've been doing lately. It's so good to have some really positive work. I just really appreciate and thank you for all of the advocacy that you do, for your, again, willingness to share your experiences, to speak out not only on behalf of yourselves, but of the other people living in your long-term care facilities. It's truly because of the work that you do that I can do the work that I do, and look forward to partnering with you more in the future. So thank you so much.
All right, a little fun. Everyone, in the back of your badge for residents, there's a tag, a little raffle ticket. So pull that out. Also, question. What is one right you believe every resident should have in a long-term care facility? Raise your hand if you want to call out. Tasha's got a, okay, we got 2 mics here. What's one? Right, I see right here in the middle. Keep your hands up. We got a couple right here in the middle.
Hold on 1 second.
And after we get a couple answers, I'll pull a, we're going to do 2 drawings now, and then we'll do 3 a little later. Let's see.
To speak your mind and be heard and not just throw it under the rug like most of them do.
Excellent. To speak your mind and be heard and not just disregarded, but to honor that. Great one. Keo.
The right to have visitation by family, relatives, and friends. Amen.
Absolutely. Right to visitation and access. Somebody over here.
Gifts.
Yep.
This is a nice blanket, and it's so warm.
We deserve to be treated with dignity.
Treated with dignity. Absolutely. Thank you. Wonderful. And then one more right there. Actually, 2 more. We have the woman in pink and the man in the navy hat.
More training for our CNAs, more aides, and more help for the nursing and the CNAs. They are overworked and they don't get the pay that they deserve.
All right. So staffing and accountability. Okay. I can only do one more. We're going to do one more, the woman in pink here, and then we're going to do some more later. So we'll definitely be asking this again. It was a big...
Right to privacy, freedom of speech, and having a lot of fun with your fellow residents.
I love that. I love that. That goes to quality of life, right? Being able to be free. I love that. and fun. People want to have fun. All right, so speaking of fun, I'm about to pull one of the raffle tickets. Get your tickets out. People have them? All right, I'm looking for number 458312. You have one too? Yeah, he's this gentleman right here. 8312. Yay! Thank you. All right. And I have one more for right now, and then we're going to do another one later. All right. The next one is 458350. Who has 50? Oh, I see you right there. Yay. Thank you. All right. So that's our raffle for right now. Thank you. Oh, I think. All right. So we've spoken a little bit today already about the fear of retaliation, and we've had a training in place here in Connecticut, and we started to hear back from the nursing home residents and staff that they'd seen this training many, many times because they have to do it annually, and it was getting a little stale and stagnant, and we needed to update it. And so we've taken that on, and we did that this year. We did it in partnership with the state of Colorado. The state ombudsman there, Leah, has been wonderful in helping us support in doing this. So I want to give a big shout out to her and thank her for doing that. And I think this isn't a challenge here in Connecticut. This isn't something people face only in this setting. I think it's very natural for people to have a fear when you don't have control over decisions about your daily life. So it's not always about something having happened to somebody, but it's about your feelings and that being acknowledged and supported. And so with that, I'd like to
I am currently classified as a total care patient, which means I need help dressing, bathing, toileting, and eating. It'll be 17 years in July that I've lived long-term in the facility that I'm at. I cried for the first 3 days I was there, and I begged every family member that came, please take me home. The one thing that I fear the most is those first couple minutes in the morning when I ring my bell and I'm waiting to make sure somebody's going to come. I feel very helpless, and I know, because I know that if nobody does show up, I'm stuck like this.
Every day for my care needs, I ask for my medication, pain medication. I had my first problem with the nurse, knowing that there was an extra medication in my cup. And I said to her, why is there an extra pill in my cup? And she ignored me. I was a nervous wreck.
I've had Parkinson's for 15 years, and my wife has dementia. And a couple of 3 years ago, we decided that we were progressing to the point that we really needed more professional help. We've been living in a 55-up community, but the next step was the assisted living. It's really been a tough time for me. We've been married 61 years, and there are times when I leave her and I get that longing look from her, like, by the time I get the elevator, the tears are flowing. I just couldn't help it. And I do feel that I've lost control of watching over her. Even though I know that somebody's watching over her, I don't know if they're doing an adequate job.
I did my research prior to having my mother go to this facility, and it was not my first choice. I chose it because of the proximity to my house. It's not a 5-star facility, but I have the ability to be there, and I'm going to make sure she gets the best care possible. She would call me and she'd say, nobody's come to change me. Nobody's answering my bell.
I wasn't clean properly. I was left, dirty. I asked to be clean right, and I'm pressing the call button, and it's passing 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes they shut up the button, the light, and they don't even say what I need. Finally, the lady for second shift comes in, and she said, I don't do this. I don't clean nobody's behind. I'm like, what are you talking about?
My mom can't really tell me. She can give me pieces of a story, but there are times her dementia is pretty solid when she's tired, and there are times she could be pretty darn clear, and she will talk to you and she will tell you the girl in this outfit or the boy in this outfit did this or that, and she's right. And just because she may have dementia doesn't mean she doesn't know what she's saying, which is what we get a lot. I've seen her be treated less than human.
I'm a Sarah lift because I can't get up by myself. And so I was up and they just started ripping off the back of my clothes. And I said, stop, I'm not an animal. And they sort of stopped, but she kept doing it. And I said, that's not how you treat people. I'm not an animal. And they told me to be quiet. I was being too loud. And I meant to be loud. Because I wanted somebody in the hallway to hear. But nobody did. And so I just lived with it, and I was in pain. I just suffered with it.
I'm in a corner, I don't got where to go. I'm in a dark room, I don't know how to get out. It's like, I'm in the desert, I don't got no water. How I'm gonna make it? The question in my mind going through is, should I ask or should I not ask for help? Is it gonna get worse or is it gonna get better?
One of the concerns that we often hear is that people fear retaliation. They may have never experienced it before. They may never experience it in the future, but due to the loss of autonomy and control and self-determination, they have that fear because they don't have that independence.
It took me a day to tell someone because I was afraid what would happen. I did feel like they had power over me and I was powerless. Once I got in this chair, it's like that was it. I was gonna sit there no matter how much I hurt. And so what comes back to you sometimes is the worst fears that ever happened to you.
Fear, as we know, is real. Fear is fear. What can I do? What can I say? Who's on my side? Don't make waves.
They don't know the after effect or the aftermath of once they say something, what will happen? Will it change? Will it get worse? Will it get better? Who to say something to? When I say something to that person, who else they would tell? And what will happen to me after the fact?
The fear comes from the unknown. With regard to retaliation, it's almost worse than knowing. I mean, when you don't know, you're afraid to speak up.
I didn't want to say anything because it would have hurt me more than what I was getting hurt already. They own this place, and they might throw me out.
There's always a fear of retaliation, and no matter what kind of setting you're in. It's real because you know that you can't get just your basic needs taken care of. If somebody is upset and mad with you, they will make you wait longer, or they may dismiss you, and you're just stuck sitting there waiting on someone. This person will tell you, wait a minute, and your minute comes minutes, half an hour. It could end up being like the following day. But it's like, how can you forget me? But if I'm someone that's demanding, then of course, if I'm like one of those older problematic resident.
I didn't want to get labeled as being a difficult patient because I think what I've seen over the years that some of our residents complain a lot and they're labeled quote unquote difficult patients.
Someone may either anticipate retaliation or they've maybe filed a complaint or they've had a concern about someone, and then over the next couple of days, something happens, and they assume that it's due to the fact that they made a complaint.
One of the things retaliation can be is just simply someone raising their voice at someone. It could look as if they're being abused.
I had some crazy thoughts that something would happen to my mother after we made those complaints. I was afraid, it's probably super crazy, that maybe she would get the wrong medication one day and no longer be here. I mean, that's how nervous I got. And we've seen them, tilt wheelchairs backwards. We've seen food, people get their food last, people not, we know these microaggressions happen.
But I am afraid of what the aide may do to my mom, because there have been some very nasty people. And when I spoke up, I was worried that they would be even meaner when I wasn't there.
Fear of retaliation can have an incredible impact on your daily life. You can become withdrawn. People can no longer interact in the same way, or maybe they won't ask for the same levels of care. They settle for having cold food because they're afraid to ask for their food to be warm. It could be very little issues and concerns, or very large concerns, like not getting the actual care that they need, and maybe they develop a wound or other care issues.
When my mom complained because they weren't taking her to the bathroom enough, they did get mad at her, and they told her that she's exaggerating, that she's bored, that there's no reason for have to keep going to the bathroom. So my mom would stop asking. And then my mom stopped drinking, because if she drank, she would end up having to go to the bathroom. My mom ended up with a UTI and in the hospital.
No one should sit alone with these feelings of mistrust, or that something's going to happen to them if they make a report. It's really important that they express themselves and that they understand there are tools to have their fears addressed.
I felt it somewhat intimidating a little bit to initially speak out about certain things, but I think little by little, as I saw how things went and how they affected me negatively, the only one that was going to speak out was for myself. I started getting involved with the different activities in my facility. I was asked to sit on a board for resident council. I started attending the monthly resident council meetings in my facility.
One day I had seen a notice posted on the board about resident council. And so I went to a meeting. I learned what my rights were, and so I felt more comfortable knowing that I had these rights and I can go to these people for help.
At every resident council meeting, they go through every department and any person that has any things that they would like to talk about. They raise their hand and they're given 5 minutes to talk.
I think when you find a friend or find a group such as your resident council, you realize you are not the only one. And I think that relieves some of that fear and that pain, because you are not by yourself. There are other people experiencing what you're experiencing. And then having developed relationships with staff in the building, I think that really helped too. Because I felt like I had a comrade I could go to say, look, I'm experiencing this. How can you help me address this?
Find that one person within the organization. It doesn't matter if it's the housekeeper, it doesn't matter if it's the dietary aide, the social worker, the director of nursing, if it's the administrator, if it's another resident. Find someone who is okay and open to be an advocate for them.
I think it's important to go to people you trust. I think if you have a gut feeling that something is happening, it likely is happening.
If you're not feeling comfortable and something deep inside is telling you something's not right, then you're right. You're always going to be right, because when someone's providing you the service, you have the right to complain.
I finally started asking people. One person I knew, they say, no, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to be afraid. I mean, what do you mean? You don't have to be afraid, man, but I'm going through this. You're not going through this. You didn't went through this. I'm going through this. He said, but it's going to get fixed, but you just have to go through the process. Just go through the process. It's going to be fine. I said, well, I don't know you, but I'm going to believe you. Okay, let me go through the process.
The first thing that you need to do is start off with a grievance. Because when you write out a grievance, that's the paper trail.
I went through the chain of command. I went to the supervisor, and then I went to the nursing supervisor, and then the supervisor of the supervisor, and then I went to the administrator.
I try to start with the next person in line. If that doesn't get accomplished, I go to the LPN, and if then it doesn't get accomplished, I go to the supervisor.
I had options, knowing that I had a social worker and I had an administrator. And if I haven't gotten any answers through the administrator, I would have contacted the long-term ombudsman.
There are long-term care ombudsman programs in every state across the country, and it's our role to advocate on behalf of individuals receiving long-term services and supports. Every state office is set up a little differently. However, we do support anyone living in a long-term care setting, residential care homes or small homes in the greater community, assisted living communities, and in some states for individuals receiving home care.
The Ombudsman plays a very special role. I think it's definitely a safety net. I felt like I had somebody in my corner that would fight for me and fight for the others that I lived with to make sure that the dignity and respect that individuals deserve living in nursing homes, that it's honored.
I feel very comfortable knowing that I have somebody on my side, knowing that it will advocate for me. They will step in and help you to, with any problems that you might be having.
I'm grateful that we have an ombudsman that works on our behalf. And I think you need to get to know what it is, because that's a term that not everyone understands.
I said, who's ombudsman? Who you talking about? What's that? They say, he'll advocate for you. He will fight for you, not for here, for you, for the residents. I said, for real? Okay. Well, where's the number? He said, it should be in the wall somewhere. Look for it.
It's posted, like even in our building, their number, very visible, a picture of our regional ombudsman, so that if they really feel like nobody's listening to them, the regional ombudsman and the state ombudsman's office would assist them.
We represent their rights related to dignity, respect, privacy. We want to ensure that they're receiving care in a dignified way and in a way that is person-centered, that they're directing and meets their individualized needs. We talk about the fact that they might be feeling vulnerable. We bring it up first and really explain to them that we want to know and help them learn how to self-advocate, to reassure them and let them know that there's avenues for them to be able to have their concerns addressed, and we let them know what those avenues are.
First thing is they ask me for permission if they can advocate for me, and they can ask questions, and they have permissions to do what they are supposed to do. And I said, yes, you do. You can. Go ahead. They did what they're supposed to, and they came with a solution, and they gave it to me. And I was like, wow, this really works. It was soothing and what I wanted to hear. I was like, whoa, I got somebody behind me now.
It carries a little more weight when you have the ombudsman coming in. We have more power in numbers. We are, there's someone listening to my concerns.
And when you find the person to trust, it will work out okay.
I think once people understand who the ombudsmen are and what we can do to help support them, it can be life-changing for people.
We may think that we can't do something, and then you can there, and it's like a little strange. It's a wonderful experience.
Being part of resident council, being part of the statewide coalition of resident council presidents gave me purpose and a reason to want to be and do something every day, to stay engaged, to eat, to sleep, to function as best as you possibly can. It gives you a better quality of life. And I felt that becoming part of those programs have really helped me to not become depressed or angry or fearful.
I said, I don't have to get used to anything. I have rights. And you're not going to ever do this to me again or to anybody else in here.
I had a empowered feeling, like this is not going to happen to me anymore.
I grabbed the bull by the horns. I'm the power. I'm my own person, myself. I live in that room. I live in that nursing home. I have rights. And the Bill of Rights.
Any U.S. citizen has rights, no matter the setting you're in, but especially if you're receiving care, you should have the right to be fully informed, to understand what's happening with your care, to have a say in your care.
Everyone has the right to their opinion. Everyone has the right to vote. Everyone has the right to receive the care that they're deserving and paying for. I think one of the biggest things that we need to do is to convince people that they do have a voice. We have the right to speak up and responsibility really to speak up and not let it go.
There's many that they cannot speak for themselves. I try to help them as much as I can. I give the Ombudsman number. I say, look, if this doesn't get fixed after you go through the channels, just call the Ombudsman right away and leave your note and be honest about it. This is what's going on. Always write the date and the name, especially the name of the person. Like, you have to know that. Don't stay quiet. Don't be afraid to ask someone to help you.
For anyone who's out there who has a fear of retaliation, who has some concerns, who maybe hasn't reached out before and doesn't know what the Ombudsman's office can do for them or what the resources are, whether you're a resident, a family member, or a care team member, I really encourage you to reach out. If you don't know how to reach out or how to find your Ombudsman in your local community, you can go to the National Consumer Voice. There's a list of every Ombudsman's office, how to contact them. We are free, we're confidential, and people can just get information from their local Ombudsman. Every person deserves to receive high-quality care in a way that's dignified and meets their individualized needs. And I think it's really important that we realize that we're all there for the same reason. The residents are there for the care that they need. People receiving care services in the greater community just want to live their best life. And care team members are there because they want to provide that care. And if we keep that in mind and we understand that we all have the same goal, I think things will go better because we want staff to feel successful in the way that they're providing care and services to individuals.
If you can look at that patient and picture your own family member's face, put them there. Respect them as your family. Give them dignity. Let them have their voice. It's not hard to do, and it could make me cry. Just respect them like they're your family.
When you really help someone see that they have a say in things that happen, like when they get up. Do I drink coffee first or do I have to get up and be dressed? Those little nuances to people's day can make a huge difference in the way that they feel like they have some power and control, just like anyone else living their best life. Our new training video. Do you think that will be helpful for everyone in your long-term care community to see? I think so. I want to say thank you. A few of the residents who are in the video are here today, so I want to give a big shout out to them and the family members that participated, because it can feel risky to do that, right? To put something out there in that way. So a huge thank you to them. Peter Sanders, Peter, thank you for the work that you did. He took a lot of information and got it into 22 minutes for us, which I think was challenging, but it came out wonderful. And I think it's going to be an amazing tool not only here in Connecticut, but nationally as we move forward. It will be on our website available. We're not doing the DVDs anymore. We will send it out to every nursing home, a link so that everyone can get on. It'll be on our website for family members, residents, and other individuals. ASAP, right? Probably within the next week. All right. Speaking of moving forward, I would like to ask Alice Bonner from the Moving Forward Coalition and Anna Fisher and Jennifer Baker. There she is. I'd like to come on up. So we have been working in partnership with the Moving Forward Coalition. Anna is my co-chair for a pilot that we're doing here in Connecticut. She came from Nebraska to join us for this forum. And Alice, I'll invite you up and your team members.
All right, from Nebraska, come on, let's give a really big round of applause. And she's headed back because when she gets there tomorrow night, she's working the night shift in a nursing home as a nurse with residents. So we're so glad she's here. So hi, everybody. I can barely see over this podium. I hope you can see me. I am just going to tell you that the Moving Forward Nursing Home Quality Coalition is a group that came together after a 2022 report by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine. It was called the National Imperative to Improve Nursing Home Quality. I hope some of you in this room have read the report. It's 600 pages, so very long, but it's full of really good recommendations. And the reason we exist is because people said, what if nobody reads the report? What if nobody takes these recommendations and does anything? So Moving Forward is a small, not-for-profit group. It's a group of organizations that's come together to work on anything having to do with nursing home quality. And our vision is that every nursing home can be a community or is a community in which lives are nurtured, residents are empowered, and where people want to work. And you've already heard, we heard people talking about staffing, we heard people talking about CNAs and other workers, we heard you talking about the quality of life and resident councils. So I'll just say very briefly that we are here to say we are taking action. We're a very action-oriented group. It can be very annoying to people working with us, but we're just like, okay, we're just going to do this because someone has to take ideas, lots of great ideas from rooms like this, and bring them forward. And we're so delighted to see Jeanette honored with an award today because she does a great deal of work with us. She's on our steering committee, so she's one of the people who, yes, let's give her another round of applause. She's doing great work. So I'm going to tell you, we have 2 priority projects, and then we'll tell you about the 3rd priority project, and Jeanette will do that. And then Jennifer Baker, our policy director, will tell you about our steering committee and policy work. But 2 priority projects, one of them is out in the state of Kansas, and they're also working with Nebraska and Missouri going forward on talking to residents when they come to live in the nursing home about what their goals are, what matters to you. They've got a whole protocol that they developed with a group of people through Moving Forward and a whole process to implement and test this in nursing homes. They're working with 6 and they're going to work with more. And then the other project is about strengthening the staffing, specifically nursing assistants, through apprenticeship programs. And we're working with 23 different states across the country on how to have registered apprenticeship programs to strengthen staffing in nursing homes. So with that, I'm wondering, you've got a microphone, good. Jeanette, do you want to say anything else about strengthening resident councils, which is our 3rd priority project, and what state is it happening in?
Connecticut.
Yay, it's happening in Connecticut.
Connecticut is Connecticut is the pilot state. We started off with 25 homes that are involved in our pilot program. I believe we're currently at 30. We have 30 homes in the state of Connecticut that are participating. You will find information in your folders that will tell you about the booklet or guide that was developed through many, many different wonderful people that have been working in this type of arena for many, many years, put together a beautiful guidebook. Now, many of you have probably ran your resident councils the same way for many, many years, as myself has done. And I have been using the guideline book, and it has really helped me and encouraged me to broaden my feelings and the way I address things in my own home with our own residents. So I encourage all of you to check that out, look at it, empower yourselves, embrace the opportunity that you have as a resident council president to be a big voice in your own homes and make changes so that the life that you choose to live in your home is the one that you want. And I'm very grateful for the home that I live in. My administrator is very much on board. Our owners of our facility, he owns 5 buildings in this state, and all 5 of his facilities are in the pilot program.
Awesome.
So it's a wonderful program. I encourage you all to check out the material in your folders and check out the Moving Forward website. It'll give you more information with regards to some of the other things that are taking place, not only in our state, but nationally, that you could benefit from and be a part of.
Awesome. We don't pay her to do PR, by the way. That was awesome. It was perfect. Also, we have a table in the lobby. So,
the table.
Anna, do you want to add anything to that? Anna worked on the committee. She co-led the development of that guide. So
I would love to, Alice. Thank you. And as a provider, first of all, let me say this is my first time in this state of Connecticut. And beautiful. And you all have been so gracious and welcoming. So it's just thrilled to be here. As a nurse and long-term care provider, I will tell you, resident council, it put the structure that we needed to really put it into place. And how privileged are we as a nurse to step foot in their home first and foremost, and what are we doing to help amplify their voice? And this resident council guide that was developed by a dynamic team, Marae, led by you and the others, Alice, has just really put that solid structure for us that we could take it to the next level so we can do what we need to do to provide that high quality of care for the precious residents that we serve. So
awesome.
What an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. Jennifer.
You all are the experts in your own experiences. Your voice is your power. Even if your voice shakes, it matters. My name is Jennifer Baker, as Alice shared, and I'm the policy director for the Moving Forward Nursing Home Quality Coalition. And I come to the table as a family care partner, as an advocate, and previously having led the national effort to develop a national plan on aging rooted in the perspectives of real people who are impacted by policies and programs on the ground, and from leading aging policy for the U.S. Senate Special Committee on Aging. And I know that your voices matter and they are wanted. Policymakers, decision makers want to be hearing from folks on the ground. And so avenues like resident councils provide a safe space for you to share your stories and to build community and to know that you're not alone in wanting to wake up at the time that works for you and having the freedom to make your decisions throughout the course of the day. And so we're just really pleased at the Moving Forward Coalition to provide pathways for folks to be able to advocate for themselves and the sorts of living conditions that they want for their lives. And with that in mind, we know your voices matter and are in your corner and seeking every opportunity through our steering committee, which is comprised of lots of folks actually in this room, including Lori. I see Irma was here earlier, yeah. Jeanette, Anna, and we are asking permission to capture your stories and to advocate on your behalf to make sure that the voices of people who live, work, and depend upon nursing homes inform practice and policy at a national level. Throughout lunch, I'll be out in the atrium space.
Me too.
Yes, with Alice. And we'll be hopefully talking to many of you and capturing your stories on a video so that we can share those and use those stories and your background to help to advocate for policies and programs that ensure nursing homes are places where people not only want to live, but where they thrive. Because all of you deserve to live in spaces where you thrive. And not everybody has a Mairead in their corner. And so we're committed to making sure everybody does. And just really appreciate your consideration of that and your time.
Yeah, so we'll see you at lunch. Come out and talk to us. And thanks for everything you do every day. Thank you.
Bobby, come on up. I'm missing John. Oh, I was like, where'd John go? Come on up. Come on up. We're going to get you a chair, John. Dan's got the chair. So I want to introduce two of our presidents of resident council who are part of our executive board. And these gentlemen help not only my office when we're looking at legislation and what we think we should approach for the next year. They work together, let me get out of the way, collaboratively to promote good policy in our state. So Bobby, I'm going to hand this to you. You and John kick it off, okay?
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bobby.
And I am John, and we're both members of the Executive Board of Statewide Coalition of Presidents of Resident Councils.
Today, we would like to ask you just one simple question. Got cola?
That's the slogan for a new statewide initiative we're running as we gear up for the 2026 legislative session.
Our voices is on the personal needs allowance. Our focus. Our focus is on the personal needs allowance, the P&A. We're pushing to make sure it keeps up with the cost of living adjustment, COLA. Because our needs don't stay the same. No, our needs don't stay flat, and neither should our allowance.
We're here to tell you more about the P&A, why it matters, and how you can help us build momentum for this fight.
What is the P&A? Personal needs allowance. Money residents Medicaid keep each month after paying towards care at the nursing home. For most residents, it's the only personal spending money. Current amount in Connecticut is $75 per month, raised in 2021.
Okay, now you're saying to yourself, what does the P&A cover? Well, it covers clothing and shoes, haircuts and personal care items beyond what Medicaid covers, cell phone bills, TV, radio, and computer, small treats like chocolate or takeout food, gifts for loved ones, and things that bring comfort and dignity.
The problem,
Prices rise every year, but the P&A does not. $75 no longer stretches as far as it did in 2021. Residents are forced to make tough choices: haircut or new shoes, treat or phone bill.
The solution we're fighting for ties the P&A to the cost of living adjustment, COLA, just like Social Security rises with inflation. The P&A should rise too. Needs don't stay flat, or allowance shouldn't either.
We need your voices to show lawmakers this matters. That's why we've entered a questionnaire for residents. We've created a questionnaire for residents.
Your answers help build the case and show lawmakers the real challenges we face when it comes to making some of those hard choices. Like, do I pay my phone bill or get a new coat for winter?
In your Voices attendee packet, scan the QR code to fill out the questionnaire online. Everybody got that? In your Voices attendee packet, scan the QR code to fill out the questionnaire online. QR. Use the paper copy. Bring it back to your facility, gather responses, and then submit them. We will use these examples in our testimonies from the executive board.
By staying connected with the executive board, you will be notified when public hearings happen during legislative sessions. You may have the chance to testify in person at the Capitol or testify online. Hearing directly from residents makes the issue more personal and powerful for lawmakers.
Beyond the questionnaire, residents can stay involved by joining the statewide coalition of presidents of residential council. Coalitions meet twice a month online. Any resident can join, and members help identify issues-led initiatives and organize efforts like this one. Talk to your regional ombudsman or any coalition member to learn how to join.
In closing, this is about dignity and quality of life. Together, we can make change happen. Every voice strengthens our case. Your story matters. So when lawmakers ask what we want, we'll say it loud and clear. Got COLA.
Got COLA.
Thank you. Dan's coming to get your microphones. Dan's going to come grab them from you. Or Natasha. So thank you to you both. Thank you to our entire executive board of presidents of resident council. It's really important what they're saying, to have resident stories, to have residents testify. If you're a care team member here, please help residents sign on to our website and look at our advocacy page to know when certain bills are being heard, and to ensure either in writing or virtually that people are able to testify. We here in Connecticut We're not allowed to use funds for transportation for residents to get to the legislature to testify. But it's really important to us that that happens. We have something called the Patricia V. Gore Fund that residents, family members, and invested parties donate to so that we can ensure that residents' voices are heard directly. So if anyone ever wants to donate that, donate to that, please ask your regional ombudsman. And Donna Gore is the daughter of Patricia V. Gore. And after COVID, and her mother was so impacted, she wanted to make sure that individuals' voices were heard. So that's why we have that fund. So a big thank you to Donna. She's not here today, but want to thank her as well. All right. Thank you, guys. And now we are going to transition to the awards part of our day. Dan, if you want to cue up the Carol Rosenwald, what the residents put together.
Good morning. Representative Belinsky, the Carol Rosenwald Award is named after Karen Rosenwald, a nursing home resident and activist who brought people together from across Connecticut to speak up for better care. She started the statewide coalition of resident councils and launched the very first Voices Forum back in 1997, giving residents a way to be heard by leaders and decision makers. Each year, we give this award to someone who carries on Carol's spirit, someone who stands with residents, protects their rights, and works to make life better in long-term care. This year, our coalition voted to give it to you because of the incredible work you've done over the years. You've been there for us again and again, passing important laws that have made a real difference, from raising the personal needs allowance, to increasing minimum staffing levels, to making sure residents could testify virtually and stay connected to loved ones during the pandemic. You've proven time and time again that you are a true champion for the residents of Connecticut. On behalf of the coalition and the residents we represent, we are proud to present this award to you. Congratulations! Woohoo! We appreciate you so very, very much.
Buongiorno, everybody. I'm Representative Mitch Belinsky from Newtown and the ranking member on the Aging Committee. And I'm sorry I can't be with you today, but I'm traveling with my lovely bride of 40 years, celebrating our anniversary, as we gallop across the beautiful countryside of Italia. I wanted to take a moment, though, to say thank you to the coalition and the presidents of the resident councils for humbling me beyond words, and thank you so much for selecting me to be the Carol Rosenwald Spirit of Advocacy Award honoree this year. It means so much to me, and I wanted to just say from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. Not all of you know this, but during the pandemic, I lost my mother in the very first days in a long-term care facility, and the most frustrating thing in the world occurred because in the confusion of the pandemic and in the way that long-term care facilities used to work, my mother, who wasn't doing particularly well, who I was locked out of being able to visit, didn't have her voice heard, and it wound up being a very difficult time in all of our lives. But what you do is truly heroic. So as you bestow this award on me, I can't help but think what I think every single day, which is, when I speak with you, when I see you, you're the heroes. You're the ones that give voice to our long-term care residents. And as we move the program forward, you see that we have expansions going on of long-term care ombudsman. These are also very, very special people, but we're going to be expanding their reach to also include aging in place. So the care and the attention and hopefully the love and the awareness necessary to keep every resident going is what you do, and I thank you for that. I also thank the presidents for selecting me for this incredible honor. So I look forward to seeing you when I return. And for now, arrivederci.
So that is Representative Mitch Belinsky, and Representative 40 years here also from the Aging Committee, and Representative Garibay, if she's not here, she's coming. I just really want to highlight that our Aging Committee and our Veterans Committee are bipartisan, and they work really hard to meet the needs of the individuals that they serve and keep all of the other stuff out of it and really focus on what are the needs and who are they trying to pass legislation for. So a huge thank you to that. All right. And now it's my great privilege today to present the Brian Capshaw Award. Yay! This award and honor is named for a tireless advocate whose voice and leadership forever changed the way we think about rights, dignity, respect, and life for those living in long-term care communities. So I know Lori spoke about Brian earlier in her video, which we did not know. He was a rock star, and that's why we call this the Rock Star Award. Brian went with me to conferences when I was a regional ombudsman. That made me nervous some days, but you'd get there and he just really blew it out of the water. This award really recognizes individuals who carry forward that same spirit of courage, persistence, and deep commitment to residents' well-being at the federal level, and as a national advocate and really raising up that voice. This year's recipient embodies those qualities. It is my honor to present the Brian Capshaw Award to Lori Smentanka, the Executive Director of the National Consumer Voice for Quality in Long-Term Care. For decades, come on up, Lori. For decades, Lori has been a national leader in the movement to improve the lives of people receiving long-term services and supports. She has worked at the federal level to advocate for stronger protections, uphold residents' rights, and ensure that the lived experiences of individuals in nursing homes and other care settings are heard where decisions are made. Through her leadership, advocacy, and vision, Lori has helped bring residents' voices to Congress, federal agencies, and policymakers nationwide. She has been instrumental in shaping stronger regulations, increasing transparency, and holding systems accountable, all with her unwavering focus, ensuring that people receiving long-term services and supports can live with dignity, respect, and choice. Lori, your work reflects the very heart of what Brian stood for. I was so happy you had him in your slide today. Amplifying the voices of those who too often go overlooked, standing firm in the face of resistance, and never losing sight of the individuality of every resident. On behalf of the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program, I want to give you the Brian Capshaw Award.
Thank you. So I told Bryd when I saw this I was going to get emotional because
we didn't tell her she was getting this.
She did. Yeah, I didn't know. And as she said, Brian meant so much to me and to all of us in this movement and in this work. So I need to calm myself down a minute. This is extremely meaningful, and I really appreciate this, and know that as you saw from my slides, Brian was a huge part and inspiration for the work that we do, and to receive an honor in his name is extremely meaningful. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, we're about to have lunch right at noon, but before we have lunch, we're gonna do one more raffle. Are my raffle people ready? Okay, I got a thumbs up over there. All right, as things are progressing towards lunch, you're going to see people come around and drop things on your table for you to eat and enjoy. But during that time, I want to ask another question. True or false? Residents have the right to participate in decisions about their own care. True. Everybody can shout them out for true and false. That's right. All right, and then fill in the blank here. You guys can all call out some things. Residents have the right to feel safe and blank in their living environment. Safe and what? Comfortable, free, secure, heard, respected. Awesome. Happy. Oh, I like happy. What was that one? Treasured. Oh, I like that. That's great. All right, so you guys know your rights. That's good. All right. Do you think residents should have regular opportunities to voice their concerns about their rights? Yes. Great, and that's why we're all here today. All right, before lunch, I'm going to pull 2 more raffles now, and then we'll do one at the end. All right, so who has ticket number 458345? Who has 345? 345. Yay! This gentleman arrived before any of us this morning. I think he's been here since the crack of dawn. So he deserves a ticket. All right, I'm going to draw one more. Oh, right over here. He has on sunglasses. Put your hands up. There you go. There you go. You got it, Q? All right, and the next ticket is 458353. Who has 353? Raise your hand. Anybody? 353. If not, I can go on to the next ticket. All right, I'm going to pull another one then. All right. The next ticket, 458303. 303. Oh, yay. Okay. Great. And with that, now we're going to move on to lunch. Again, there's the tables outside. We would love to have you visit, give your opinions, talk about your experience in long-term care, but also enjoy your lunch, talk to the people at your table, and we'll be making our way around as well. Enjoy. Okay. Hello, everybody. We're going to come back together. We have a few other things we're going to do this afternoon. But before we get started, right after lunch, Bobby and Jeanette are back up here. They wanted to talk with you all and share something, so if we can focus a little bit. Okay, Bobby and Jeanette.
You want to go first? You want me to? I'll go. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us again today. We are so grateful that you're here. Earlier in the day, we had an award ceremony type situation that we gave to others, but there was one award that was kind of overlooked. And we would like to recognize the executive board, discuss this, and we felt that this was a really prominent award for one of our regional ombudsmen. So if Dan Beam wouldn't mind coming up forward.
Our community ombudsman manager, yes, Daniel Beam.
As you know, Mitch received the Carol Rosenwald Award. Unfortunately, he was not able to be here today, but Dan Beam is. And Dan Beam has been a tremendous support, not only to his coworkers and the State Ombudsman's office, but has been a tremendous helper to the executive board as well as the residents living in our state. So as the executive board members, we decided that we felt that Dan should also receive the Carol Rosenwald Award because he contains all those same characteristics, if not more now, to assist us and to move forward in the goals that we have as an executive board. So Dan, we would like to honor you with the recipient as the Carol Rosenwald Award as well.
And Dan did not know that.
Okay. Hello, everybody. It's me, Bobby, again. I'd just like to say that in the short time that I've been a resident council president and I've been able to meet these people, everyone in the Ombudsman office, the workers, the people that are at other nursing homes, the residential council presidents. It's just been an honor for me to be able to say I was a part of something that for greater good. And Dan, this guy never sleeps. Dan is always on the move. He's just nonstop. He's on go all time. And that's a characteristic that it fits him. I don't know if he know it, but it fits him. Dan is the man.
I think it should say that Dan is the man, right? So thank you, Dan. Thank you for all the work you do to support us, to support this program. You're awesome.
Thank you, Dan.
All right. And with that, I'd like to invite the individuals for our panel discussion to come up to the stage, please.
All right.
If we can do one mic on each side. Yeah, you're going to go in the middle, though. Right there, one. And then Lori, if you wouldn't mind sitting next to Jeanette and having the mic to help support her. Here, James. Yep. Awesome. Yep.
Thank you so much. We'll share a mic, you and I. That'd be great. The dial on the inside. The dial on the inside. Here? Oh, okay. Oh, that would be bad. That would be very bad. Yeah.
I think we're good for right now. And with that, I'd also like to welcome Catherine Hauser from Channel 8 News, who's joining us today to moderate our panel discussion. So thank you so much for being here.
Hello, how we doing? Doing good? Everybody eat their delicious lunch? Yes? Working on dessert? Give you the energy to ask good questions during our panel discussion. I want to thank our panelists for being here. I'm going to introduce you, and when I do, give a little wave. Once again, I'm Catherine Hauser. If you watch News 8, I'm there at 4 o'clock weekdays. I hope you do. Shameless plug. It's an honor to be here today at the annual Voices Forum. I've had the good fortune of collaborating before with our incredible state ombudsman, Red Painter, and I'm thrilled to be here to moderate a really great panel discussion. And again, this is an opportunity for all of you in the room. This event is, as you know, a place where residents can speak with leaders who shape their daily lives. It's also a place where residents, families, advocates, and leaders can come together to talk about what life in nursing homes is really like and how we can make it better. That's the key. So I'm going to get started by introducing our incredible panelists who are with me on the stage right now. Hello, State Rep Gilchrist. Hello. First, we have Lori Smetanka. Lori is the Executive Director of the National Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care. We also have James Augustin. There's James. James is from the Department of Public Health Services, Manager of Facility Licensing and Investigations Division. We also have State Rep Jillian Gilchrist. So happy you're here. She represents the 18th District of West Hartford. Applause is allowed. Go for it. We also have Luisa Parente, social worker at the Department of Social Services, and Jeanette Sullivan Martinez, president of the statewide coalition of presidents and resident councils. Thank you for being here. So here's how this is going to work. This is an hour-long discussion. I know people have rides coming at 2 o'clock. I'm going to keep this on time and as punctual as possible. So I'm going to kick things off by asking questions of our panelists, and then as you're listening, they're going to be answering some questions. I invite you, and I'll cue you at that point to raise your hand. Start thinking about what you want to ask. and then we're going to get to you in the audience and take as many questions as possible as the time allots. So don't be shy. In TV, we always ask people, don't be shy. Talk to us. We want to hear from you. So first, I'm going to start with Lori. From a national perspective, what trends are you seeing in nursing homes that Connecticut residents should be aware of?
So what I would say is that maybe the biggest one is in far too many nursing homes, there are not enough staff to take care of the residents that are living in that community. And that's probably the biggest issue facing residents today, and that filters down into almost every aspect of life in a long-term care facility. When there aren't enough staff there, and I mentioned this earlier when I spoke, that are well-trained, that have proper supervision, that really know the residents, that they are caring for when there's high turnover, when there's too many contract staff instead of people that are employees in the facility. That really affects every aspect of life in long-term care. So short staffing, high use of agency staff or contract staff instead of having actual people there that are employed by the facility. And another big trend is really the need to increase the transparency in terms of what's happening in that facility, so that the public is aware of who owns the nursing home, who's operating it, and how they're spending the money that they get.
Next question I'm going to ask James. Oversight is critical, but often invisible. Can you explain exactly what your team does to ensure resident safety?
Thank you for that question. That's a very good question. So with the facility licensing section, we are in facilities constantly monitoring to ensure that the quality of care is being provided adequately. We do our recertification surveys where the team is meeting with residents, ensuring that staff are providing the appropriate level of care, that the residents are happy, and we look into any resident concerns that are identified throughout that process. The other piece is the complaint section. So any complaint that we get, we triage within our federal recommendations. We do investigate any complaints related to care and services. So we are in facilities, again, investigating complaints, interviewing residents, interviewing family members. So that kind of speaks to that.
Thank you. State Rep Gilchrist. How do residents' stories shape legislation in our state and drive policy change?
Great question. I'm so glad to be here. People's stories are so powerful and influence the policy we make every single day. Without those stories, we'd only hear from those who represent the nursing homes, and not that there's anything wrong with those folks, but sometimes they paint a different picture of what's actually happening inside the four walls of a nursing home. And so to be able to understand what the day in and day out looks like from both those who live in a nursing home and those who work in a nursing home is incredibly important as we move forward and try to improve quality.
Would you like to hear more from residents?
Yes. And what's changed ever since the pandemic is that we actually have a hybrid public hearing process. So when our legislative session is in session and we're hearing on legislation, instead of having to come to the Capitol building to testify on a bill, you can actually do it via Zoom, which has given people a lot more access to be able to share their experiences and stories with us.
Thank you. All right. Next up, I have Louisa here. I'm wondering, how is Connecticut working to ensure that residents have meaningful choices about their care?
So all residents have choices. As mentioned, I'm with the Money Follows the Person program. So residents that are living in facilities have the options, if eligible, to return to the community with supports and services. They would be provided with a team that would work with them in order to return to the community, again, with different supports and services to benefit that individual.
And can you tell us a little bit more about what you do so everybody in the room has a better understanding?
As a social worker, I work with the access agencies that work with the resident in facilities. So there's a team of individuals, a specialized care manager, a transition coordinator, a housing coordinator that work for the resident to establish a program in order for them to return back to the community with supports and services. So I work with that team to help support them and the individual in returning to the community if eligible.
What would you say are some of the greatest challenges that you're seeing right now?
Right now, I would have to say, I think most people would agree, finding housing for individual, because if the person doesn't have an apartment or their own home or a family member to return to, we do have a team that works with them to find housing, but depending on where they are in Connecticut, housing options are limited. Finding accessible units are also difficult as well. So I would say that that's the greatest right now.
Thank you. Jeanette, you're someone who, you speak with nursing home residents. You are in very many ways their voice. As someone who represents them, what is the most important message that you want leaders to hear and to know?
I think the most important thing is that they need to remember that we're people and that we're individuals, and we each have separate needs, wants, goals. There is a lot of commonality with those things. We want to be heard, we want to be respected, we want to be understood. And I think that keeping in mind that we're not just a number on somebody's list every day of work that needs to be accomplished, I think recognizing that we are individuals and that not only do we deserve to live at a place with dignity and respect, it should just be naturally understood.
And what would you say, too? I ask you the same question of some of the challenges that you're hearing from residents at this current moment, and it may go beyond this moment, but what would you say?
Staffing. I think staffing is a big one. As a lot of agency. When you have a lot of agency people, and some of them are very dedicated, they do their job very well, but they don't know the individual. And when you have consistent staff that knows you, you develop a level of trust with the person that's caring for you, and they get to know you and your nuances, and you get to know them and how they work, and there's a relationship that is built that a lot of times goes beyond just being a person living in a home. They become your friend, they become like a member of your family because of the level of care that they give.
Thank you for that. And Lori, I'm going to ask you, so you said right off the bat that staffing was the biggest issue. So what are some solutions or things that you're looking at to alleviate that main concern? It's obviously residents, she's saying, is their main concern. What are you working on to help that or find solutions for that?
So we are working now at the federal level to achieve a minimum staffing standard. So ideally, staffing should be based on the needs of the residents, based on acuity, which means they can fluctuate within a nursing home. But so many nursing homes are short-staffed, way below what is safe. And so we are advocating for a minimum staffing level below which you cannot go, and then you need to bump up if the residents in your nursing home need higher levels of care. Regulations, federal regulations that were passed last year are currently being rescinded. So we're in the process of regrouping, working with members of Congress to look for legislation that could propose minimum levels in the meantime. So that's a big area that we're working on. We're also working on a provision to require nursing homes to have to spend a certain percentage of any resources that they get, reimbursements that they get, Medicaid dollars, on direct staff, so that it would ensure that the bulk of the money is going towards direct staff. Those are things we're working on at the national level.
Are there things that you would like everyone in this room to really know about within that context?
I'm sorry.
The need for higher pay.
The need for higher pay for staff, supporting staff. One reason for short staffing is certainly, the money being available to pay for them. But at the same time, there's shortages of staff available. So we are looking at how to recruit more people to come into the field by increasing pay so that they're being paid a living wage, getting benefits and supports, as well as education. You heard Alice Bonner this morning talk about one of the programs through the Moving Forward Coalition that's helping to provide apprenticeship programs for people to increase their skill level and increase payment for them. So there are a lot of different programs like that that are being worked on nationally and across the country to help encourage greater staff, but also to require that money that's being put into nursing homes actually is going for its intended purpose.
What's some of the biggest or main common questions that you're asked a lot in your position? I'm curious, from residents or residents' families.
How can they get the actual care needed for their loved one? That's a big question. Who can they call when they need help and support? And we direct them to the long-term care ombudsman in their area. And what could they do to make a difference? That's one of the big things we actually hear from residents and families. What can they do? And we always tell them, we talked about stories, and we even mentioned that stories on this panel. Telling your story and telling your experience is really critical for ensuring that the people that are making the policies, that are implementing them, that are enforcing them, actually are understanding what your lived experience is like, so that they can work to make things better.
Thank you. All right, James, I'm heading back down to you. What's your top priority for improving resident quality of life? And I realize that's a big question.
That is. And I think from a Department of Public Health standpoint, we're the regulatory authority. So our biggest thing is going into doing those unannounced inspections, finding those deficient practices, citing those deficient practices, and following it through the process to ensure that the facility provides an adequate plan of correction that addresses those deficient practices so that outcome does not occur again. So I think that's, one of the biggest things is just more or less being a deterrent and kind of following up to identify any deficient practices. Sometimes the facilities aren't even aware that it is a deficient practice until an outside person or agent, we come in and identify it. So bringing that to their attention again and following up on it, and then doing a revisit to ensure that whatever we looked at that was cited it has been acted up appropriately.
And I didn't get a chance to ask you, what would you say are some of the, in your position, the greatest challenges that you're facing right now?
So there's a lot of different challenges. I would say that's a really tough question. I think that it's been a common theme, the agency staff. I think that has been one challenge for us in identifying deficient practice, because we'll go out on a complaint. It may have been an agency staff member that was providing the care and services at that time. So trying to find that person to conduct an interview, they may be out of state, they may be at another facility, and the facility may not have the up-to-date contact information. So I think that would probably be one of the biggest challenges.
Thank you.
So
citing, when you say citing the place, do you what day you cite on money or?
So yeah, that's a great question. So we can issue a federal deficiency, and we also can issue a state violation, and then we can also issue a state civil money penalty. What I would recommend doing is all of the nursing homes in the central area, somewhere in the facility, will have a recent copy of their last inspection. So if you don't see that, ask the administrator, say, hey, where's the last inspection? A lot of our state civil penalties, they have to keep that posted in the facility until they're back into compliance. So if you see that, you can read it. It's public information, and it's out there.
And where is that? Is it by the door? Where is that?
Each facility is different. It's kind of usually in a centralized location. I've seen it in the lobby. I've seen it where the ombudsman information is. But the administrator, the secretary, they'll identify that for you.
It has to be available, so if you can't find it, let us know. And if you need help reading it or going over it, because they can be hard to figure out at first, you can always ask the regional ombudsman to help you with that. And we got hands going.
Yeah,
now, Kevin.
let's
okay,
go. Let's go to
start.
question
Okay, we got
portion.
Bobby.
Yes, for James. Are there any programs that DPH is currently looking into to help with the situations that you've been speaking on, far as the aides and the nurses in facilities to know to be taught to identify when a person is having, let's say, a mental attack as opposed to a substance abuse attack or a pain attack. There's different, there's different issues that people go through in there, and not everything is the same. So people that aren't trained and to recognize that there's something going on other than this individual just being in pain or just lashing out or, reacting. Are there any type of programs in place to teach these young aides and nurses that are coming in the field to recognize and identify, the differences?
So there is, from a department standpoint, we're the regulatory body. So when we go in to do a recertification or a complaint, usually the first thing that we're going to look at is the individual's training. So the facility has the responsibility to that nurse aide, to that whoever it may be, to provide the appropriate training. So that's one thing that we do look at. If we don't believe the training is adequate, we can cite that according to the federal regs. But we do review the training. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing. We make sure that the facility does properly train their employees. And another kind of just thing to speak about with agency staff and whatnot. So in Connecticut, we've had a lot of change of ownerships of nursing facilities within the past 2 years. That's one area that I oversee. And we do what's called a pre-licensure consent order with the new facility. So there's elements that they're required to be compliant upon from the state standpoint. So in some instances, we do put requirements on training, building improvements, that kind of stuff.
And I just want to jump into, we had a discussion about this last night at dinner. A few of us were together, Bobby, so great point, that we hear a lot about behaviors, but a behavior is just a physical expression of someone's need. And getting to the root cause, like you were saying, and it's not always the same. So really working with care team members to identify, instead of just saying they're having a behavior or they're having an episode, like you said, what is the root cause? What is that expression of need that's happening, and why is the person having that expression of need? And how do we help them with that versus just reacting to a behavior?
And if I could just say one more thing. With that too, I would suggest that you go back to the social worker at the facility too and kind of express that to them.
Great. Tasha has a question for you guys.
Yes.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, I have to apologize for not getting up, but it's a little bit difficult for me. I just wanted to ask a question and at the same time make a comment. We had an experience of having some employee in our place that she did not have any of those titles of aide or social worker or whatever, but her job was, and we call her the ambassador, that if she saw you sad, she will be there to talk to you. If you had a problem with another employee or another resident, there she was to come and talk to you. So in other words, we had a person there that not only acted as an employee on your behalf, but as a resident that was like a family that was there trying to take care of you for all of your problems, more or less, and then to go, and she was an intermediary between the administration and the residents, where if you had a problem, she will, before you will write a complaint or whatever, she will bring it up to the administration that it was supposed to be, to try to resolve the problem, even if it included the staff, the residents, or even if it's included your relative. And my question is, found that that type of service was very beneficial for all of us. I myself, who do not like to have people get involved in my matters, even had to use her at one time. I noticed how many times people were so satisfied of the service of this person that I wonder if there will be any possibility, because I'm sorry, when I asked why did we take away that employee, and after the company was sold, the new company does not want to have that kind of employee. I wonder what will it take to convey that we can receive somebody like that again working in one of the nursing homes, because I believe that is really, really necessary. They act actually like a relative of yours that is watching what's going on. And I have wanted to present this here. I was specifically waiting for this meeting to talk about this because I am very, very sure that it will bring a lot of help and a lot of joy to all of us that are residents in these institutions.
Thank you for that question. Who would like to answer? Take a first shot at the answer. I think it's a great idea.
From a policy lens, we could require it at the state level. That could be one option. That's kind of like there might be other steps before we get to that, because we could work with various residents in nursing homes to push on the administration in their nursing homes to employ that type of person. But we could pass a state law that says in nursing homes you have to have an advocate. You're describing to me what sounds like an advocate. Right. I don't know what the role was called, but
Ambassador.
Certain things, but I don't understand why. Sometimes I get close to them and I kind of start a conversation, and then I get the impression that it is that they're scared to say anything, and then that they will offend the administration or that they will offend another resident, and which is, from my point of view, is not the case. But I think it's something that is needed really badly, because when we are in a nursing home, I hear many times saying, this is your home, but this is a home from my point of view without relatives. This is a home without family, unless we are able to have somebody that is able to pick up the way that you are hurting from whatever source of it that comes up. And please excuse me because my main language is Spanish, and I'm just a kind of, I know English, and that's what I'm using.
You did great. I did want to say that one of the gaps that we've had in that way is we used to have about 167 resident advocates through the Ombudsman program here in Connecticut. Oops, there you go. We now have 10. We've got a couple here today where our RAs. We have a few RAs in the audience. And that's a challenge. We haven't had the team members to expand that program. We used to have almost one volunteer in every building, and they went a couple times a week to support the residents and to support the regional ombudsman, but we do not have that anymore because of the bandwidth in the program. We'd love to see more of that there. But yes, I saw Mag, if you want to raise your hand, Mag Morelli in the back from Leading Age. And I think to Rep. Gilchrist's point, We don't need to legislate everything. We do work closely with the associations, and there might be an opportunity for us to do outreach and education about an ambassador program. So Mag, maybe that's something we can work on in the next year, not have to legislate something. All right, I've got one question here, and then we'll go there.
Hi, I'm Ellen from the Hebrew Center in West Hartford. I have a quick question for Lori. When you mentioned managing direct funds to employees, were you referring to the on the floor employees? Like, is that what you meant? Like specifically the aides and nurses? When you were talking about increasing funding and making sure that it went directly to a certain source, was that what you were referring to?
The provisions that we're looking at, and I think Connecticut may have a provision in place like this already, it would mean that in terms of the revenue that comes in, a percentage of that has to be paid to the direct care line item. So it's not necessarily that it goes like gets in the paycheck of the employee, but it's part of the direct care line item so that it has to go to pay for staff. It can't be used to pay for building maintenance, for example, or go to profit or go to something else that's not staffing related.
Thank you. And then Dan, is it? James, pardon me. Two-part question. One, when you said it was kind of scary when you referred to the agencies not being held responsible for their employees and not being able to fund them. That's really kind of scary. And the second part is when you talk about education, in our facility, they count going around the piece of paper as an in-service. And that's an in-service to address a problem, which needless to say is ineffective. So maybe you could address that too. Thank you.
Yeah, those are two great questions. So your first question regarding the agency staff. We do require the agencies providing nursing staff to be registered in Connecticut. That was a newer law that was passed a couple of years ago. But ultimately, the facility is responsible. So even though we're not able to necessarily contact that agency staff, the facility still has the obligation to provide that agency nurse with the adequate training and is responsible for any actions that that person takes while they're in their building. So we do have the ability to cite based on that.
And in the building.
Yep.
I think I would also make sure that when DPH is in the building during a survey and they're asking if you guys have questions, that's a great time for you to bring those concerns up and address them to the team member, right? That would be something that we would hope they would.
And when we are on research, there's signs all over the building. So feel free, you'll see staff, we all have our IDs on. You can talk to staff, pull them aside. They are more than happy to talk to you. And that's kind of where we, that kind of leads us down our investigative path, so. It depends. We're in there for complaints. We're in there for recertifications. So I would say we're in all of the buildings multiple times per year.
All right, Tasha's got a question back. Sorry. Kim Hrsniak from DPH wants to add to this. Yay.
Hi, everybody. Kim Hrsniak from the Department of Public Health. I just want to add on to something that James said. We were talking about residents, and you were talking also about person-centered care, right? Everybody's an individual. All of your facilities are individual. No one is the same. So also when we go into facilities, one of the first things that the team leaders will look at is your facility assessment. So it's the responsibility of the facility administrative staff. Maybe you've got some people more, Mary was mentioning about behaviors, and we were talking about, is it a pain behavior or is it a different type of behavior? So each facility is specific. It's up to the facility to base their education on their facility assessment. What kind of population do we have here in our facility? How is it different from the one down the road? And how do we need to tailor our training to meet the needs of the residents? That's just one thing I wanted to add to what James said. Thank you.
Just to go back.
I have a question.
Okay.
We can all beat around the bush about what the problem is. Until you get these owners of these facilities to come and answer questions before your state's representative of what they own, how much they get. Do you know they get $15,000 per patient a month in these places? Does anybody know that? $500 a day. I'm not eating like $500 a day. Half of the meals I have to ask the aide what it is. She says, I wouldn't eat it if I were you. That's one thing, okay? I see staff not being properly trained. I see staff that is good, they wear them out because they put 2 on the floor where there should be 4. They take one from another one when they don't show up. I see a lot of heads that want to do a good job, but they're squeezed because the owners hold them down to the money. Because believe it or not, getting old, there's big money in it, whether you want to believe it or not. Get these statements, get Blumenthal on the wall. There's a big thing how he approves this place. DeLauro, the same thing. Let him come down there and spend a week. Spend a week. Not come down there and speak how good it is. And I'm in one of the best ones there is, Whitney Manor Rehab. But still in all, the people that want to do the good jobs can't do the jobs because they're being they're being grabbed by the neck by the owners of these places. Why are all these people from New York and New Jersey buying these places up? Why? You know why? There's money in it.
Thank you. Those are really good points. I got a question.
Can I
Very, very
comment
good points.
also?
Thank you.
Mayre, can I make a comment?
Yes.
Some of these issues that you're bringing up, they're great questions, really are. But the way you can get some of these things addressed is through your resident council and getting these issues into your minutes so that when the survey team comes in, they do review your book. And if you have ongoing issues throughout your, say, year, that they come usually once a year for survey, if it's an ongoing issue, keep it in the forefront because they look at all of your minutes, and then you could put in also that you would like to meet with them when they come into your building so that you can personally ask them how they are going to help you address these issues. So resident council notes are really important.
We had 29 complaints about working at a rehab. So I've never seen such complaints. Since then, I've never seen the state workers in that place.
Well, we can.
You know what the answer is?
Call your ombudsman.
When you got Blumenthal and DeLauro raising these places, that means they're giving that facility and things that are really elected campaign, whether you want to believe it or not. That's why we're not taking that care of the city yet. And when I call the state representative, phone call, I talk to the rest court, Mr. DeLauro, we know we need elevated and take away from stuff. What are we going to do? Who the hell is people? You don't have the people to go around and investigate these things. I said, you better get somebody. He said, how? I said, oh, what the hell are these people going for? They're getting this money. Oh, he's Jesus. I don't hear nothing else. It begins and ends with the dollar. And these people are running from out of state were not buying in because I'll tell you why. Before they can take over anything, they have their wars and their accountants there and look to see what they can get fired and what they can get out of. I heard that they're paying, this is the truth, $5 a day, 3 meals to feed a resident. $5 a day. And if you saw some of the food we had, there's no
Those are all really good points. Those are all very good points. And I do think as far as the survey and having people out, that's something we will want to talk with. You can get more information from DPH on when the last survey was. That's something we can follow up. The Ombudsman can help you with that and look at that as well. But I think your point to how much a day when you look at the daily rate of a nursing home, what goes to what? What goes to direct care? What goes to food? And all of those things. Well, yeah. We're gonna switch to here. We'll be back, but because we have a couple other people that have questions, but those are all very good points.
Hello. Oh, geez, give me the floor. Okay, well, the things they're all saying about what he was saying about, they're short-staffed and they keep taking and plucking them and put them in other places, is because I think, and just from my place, is, so many people call out sick, and there's no, what's the word I'm looking for? Like reprimandation or whatever, the reprimanded or whatever. And they don't, nobody says anything, so they know they can do this. Pretty much it's usually always the same people. And then because they have that happen, then the 5 people over here, we got to take 2 and put them over here. So, you know what I'm saying? It's all, they're dwindling. Yeah, and then I had one more other question, if I could, about advocating for people, like, and since the whole thing's about retaliation. If I had a roommate who, like, you know, she needs to be sat up now because, you know, she couldn't, you know, sleep because of the acid reflux. So instead of putting her all the way flat, but the 3 to 11 person comes in who takes care of her and fixes her all up and gets her ready for bed and puts her all the way flat. So if I turn around and say something, like, you know, she's going to be sitting up now, this one, you know, I get yelled at and cursed at because it's her job. And she's been doing that job for 40 years and she doesn't need my input. And it's none of my business. But if I live with the woman 24/7, I think it is my business a little bit. You know, they go home. They don't know what happens overnight. They're supposed to.
Does anybody want to answer
But
about
don't get me
retaliation?
started on the
Retaliation?
Lori, I don't know if you want to take a stab at that.
Yeah, I mean, retaliation and the fear of retaliation clearly is a really big issue, as we, you know, certainly were hearing earlier than that. It is against the law for them to retaliate. I mean, so it is something that you can raise with as part of your resident council, to be put in the minutes, to file complaints about retaliation with the survey agency. That is something that you can be doing as well, and that should be investigated. But, you know, if you can find your way through to speak up the way you are speaking up on behalf of your roommate, that's the way we get change made, right? That's the way we continue to keep pushing for better care to protect not only ourselves, but the people around us.
And if I can just add to that. So from a state agency standpoint, when we do an investigation, we do not identify the complainant. So the facility's not going to know that you're the one that made the complaint. When we go in to begin an investigation and we, you know, start a record review, we ask for a sample of residents. So they will, your identity is kept confidential.
And I also want to say we do have a minimum staffing requirement of 3 hours a day per resident here in Connecticut. If you're not seeing that, if there are call outs, people do get sick, especially this time of year, right? There's going to be, but if it's consistent, you know what I mean? If you have a bug or something that goes through your building, that's different than consistent low staffing. And if there is, then there should be a backup plan to ensure that everyone is receiving appropriate care.
The gentleman to the right of me spoke the truth. Where I come from, they get all our money. We get $75 a month. And the care we get is lousy. We have more call-outs than a little. Who do we go to get the right kind of care? When we do have an aide, we try to ask them to do things that are easier for me. They want everything done their way. That's not right.
What's your name?
What?
What's your name?
Alberta Marshall. I'm president of Autumn Lake, West Hartford.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the person-centered care piece, I don't know if people wanted to address that individuals should receive person-centered care. Go ahead.
I was just going to speak to, so at the legislative level, I hear you and I thank you for sharing this, and we've heard you. And so what we've been trying to do is there's nursing homes that are owned by nonprofits, and then there's nursing homes that are for-profit. And they're very different. And we've been trying to pass legislation to increased transparency to understand who owns these for-profit nursing homes, like private equity, because unfortunately, when the gentleman said this earlier, they are trying to profit off the nursing homes. And the way to profit off the nursing homes is to scamp on services for you and paying workers. That's how they make the money. And so we've been trying to pass legislation to better be able to get into their books and understand where they're spending the money, so that we can hold them accountable. Because they're for profit, they have a lot of lawyers and they keep shifting and changing how they do things. So we have to keep shifting as well to try and figure out how we get that information. We also passed the staffing ratios. We also passed here in the state that legislation that was talked about earlier to understand how much is going to direct staff care and to direct care versus how much they're profiting off of this. So we'll keep at it. It is so important to hear these stories, and I'm sorry it's not happening fast enough because it's not fair.
Thank you, Representative. We have another question back here.
How can they get your insurance money and get your social security money too? There's no law about that. I didn't understand it too. You get $75, they get the rest of your social security, but still you're getting paid by the insurance too.
So, yeah, that's part of the financing that you're talking about. And so they get a certain amount, they get whatever your income is, minus their $75, plus then Medicaid makes up the difference for the cost of what the daily rate is to pay for the care of service. And so that's where they get their money through Medicaid or Medicare. But you're contributing all of what you earn too, except for the $75 that you get to keep. And so they get the rest. And so a good portion of that should be spent on your care. And if it's not being spent on your care, if the food isn't, what it should, I mean, $5, can you imagine spending $5 a day per person? Food is one of the biggest complaints that we hear from facilities. There was an article that came out recently that most nursing homes in the country are spending less than $10 a day per person on food. I mean, you can't, people aren't getting fresh fruits and vegetables. They're getting food that's too high in fat and carbohydrates. They're getting the same meals over and over, and it's not cooked the way they want. So that's one of the biggest issues. And so things like that are the concerns and problems can certainly be brought up in the resident council, be talking to your ombudsman about it, be filing complaints with your licensing agency about it, and keep telling your stories so that your legislators are hearing about your experiences and they could be making decisions about what policies need to fix the problems that you're raising. So that's what we're all here to do.
Okay, I got a question back here. Thank you, Lori.
Speaking of low staffing being a barrier to quality of care, what is the actual ratio between CNA and resident, and what would be the new goal moving forward for the ratio?
So our recommendation, and we based on research and study and based on nursing professionals, and we don't usually look at it in terms of ratios, maybe 1:6 or 1:7 during the day shift. 4.1 hours per resident per day. In Connecticut, your minimum level is 3.0 hours per resident per day. From the national perspective, I mean, and Connecticut has one of the better standards in the country, yet we still think it needs to be higher. We think it should be a minimum of 4.1.
Thank you. Okay, we got a couple of, Tasha's gonna do one, then Brenda will go over there to get to that side of the room.
Okay, my name is Anna Lagel, and I am in a retirement home also. I'm not a retirement home, a resident nursing home. And one of the problems that I noticed about the aides, they have this problem of saying, every time you try to tell them something and you know what you're talking about, they try to say, I'm a professional, I know what I'm doing. And sometimes they don't really know what they're doing. But the only thing I'm thinking is it possible that they can have maybe some kind of training for them to go to, so that for all of them to go to, so that they know how to act with the people and everything when they misbehave the way they end up misbehaving? Because I'm getting tired of every time I say something, they turn around and say, I'm professional. I went to school for this. So I'm not supposed to say, it's like I'm not supposed to say anything. And I'm sick of hearing that. Or if you say something, oh, what's with the attitude? Oh, come on. I know what I'm talking about also. So is it possibility that there's a training that they can go to just because they're professional and they can get the how to treat people and how what you're supposed to do when they go to a nursing home? Because it's not happening.
My first recommendation would be that you would make sure you're reporting that CNA that's talking to you like that to your department head or nurse manager so that it can get on the record that they're being very unkind to you. Customer service has gone kind of out the door, unfortunately, since COVID, and it's something that really needs to be revamped within our homes. And I think it needs to be included in training of our CNAs and nurses, and especially when we do new recruiting, that those are issues that are really addressed, because unfortunately our country seems to have forgotten how to be kind to people.
I would also say that despite the fact that that person certainly may be a professional and be considered that way, you are the expert in knowing how you want your care delivered to you and what works for you. And just because Jeanette and I may have the same needs doesn't mean that I like things done the way she likes things done. And so when we talk about individualized care and person-centered care, which you are all entitled to, that is what should be provided to you. And so one of the residents one of the pictures on the slides that I was showing later was of a woman named Penny, and she trains all of her aides in how she likes care to be provided to her. And every time there's a new aide that is assigned to her, and hopefully there's the same one over and over, because it's better when you get to know the people and you know what their needs are and you know the way they like to be cared for. But she trains everyone so that they know how to provide care for her. And so you certainly have the right to tell them how you like care to be provided for you.
Thank you, Lori and Tim, for that.
My question goes back to the inspection reports. Are they available on the web?
Sorry, I couldn't hear that. What was the?
Are the inspection reports available on the web?
They are. Yes. So it's called our e-license database. It's our licensing data warehouse for all of our facility licensing. So if you go to the facility, you can see all of the state citations that the facility was issued, any inspection reports, and it's not just related to nursing homes, it's related to any facility licensing or professional license that we have. So, yep.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone up there. I do have one serious question. My question is that when you guys come out to any nursing home, everything is peaches and cream. My question is, once you guys leave, everything dies. We go, we complain to our ombudsman, and their bosses go to their bosses, and so on, so on, so on. I'm just trying to figure out, is there another way that we can figure out with Lennings, food? In the nursing home I'm currently in, there's more 75% diabetic compared to 25. We're currently working on everything else to where everybody's on an equal page. And I get it that every department has their budget, but I feel like every budget should be increased. Not increased where to an extreme amount, but enough to where we all can be okay. Winter's around the corner. It was cold yesterday. They're not gonna turn on this heat until November. Then what? Throughout the daytime, we're good because there's sunlight. At night, it's not. The AC's not on, but we can still feel the air. You know what I mean? And also, health departments, you guys come out, you know what they snack a Band-Aid on it, paint on it, you're good to go. You pass. That's what it is. That's all of it. It's not properly fixed, it's not properly done, and it's ridiculous. It's just completely undone for. Each nursing home deserves a good quality care. And we're not asking for an extreme budget, but enough to care for us. I may be mobile, but I have seen that people that have voices. I thank God that my mother had taught me how to speak sign language. There's one person in my facility who doesn't speak. And I had to translate for him. And if I'm not there, then what? Who's gonna help him translate? How is he going to get around? It's not right. And we don't have that in our facility to help him.
That's a challenge right there. But I do want to encourage you also to use your grievance book, because they should be responding in writing in the grievance book to you. And if they're not, that's something that on the survey gets looked at. We can ask that they look at too. Go ahead, James.
Thank you for that. So to go back to your first point about the inspections and how it's, while the survey staff are there, all of our inspections are unannounced. So we try and, get into the facility so, we don't see everything, like you're saying, prepared. So we do weekend starts. We go in on holidays. We go in early. We go in late. So we do stagger our survey start times to try and capture what's going on in real time. So that, just to kind of speak to that.
Great. James?
Yes, I have more of I guess it's a question and a little comment. Excuse me if I'm offending people here, but my concern is we do need more staff. I agree, as someone said earlier, but they need to be more focused on the patient than on worrying about other things. Like, for example, and excuse me if I'm saying something wrong, you can boo me, whatever you want, but like at times they're so worried about leaving that they always keep looking at the time and wondering when they're going to leave, when they're going to end their shift. And also, I'm sorry to say this, but for people who are feeding us, they also are looking at their phones a lot, and they need to look more at the patient and know what they're doing instead of worrying about the time and the phone.
Those seem like dignity issues to me, and having someone provide you with care and be connected to you while they're assisting you, right? And not preoccupied with other things that in their day that they're supposed to be there to serve you for your day.
Last thing, and also the thing of they're always saying, "Oh, I got to do something. I'll be back soon." Meanwhile, you're waiting there for 1 to 2 hours, and I think that's really wrong. They need to have more people so they can send the people over to take care of whatever the situation is.
Thank you. And yes, meeting everybody's individualized need is a criteria. I know that's something that James spoke to, that's something that Lori spoke to, and that's something we would expect in all of the homes. So I'm looking at where you're from, and I'm going to have a chat after, okay? Tasha? I'm going to go.
What can you do when there's a patient that's taking away the rights of all the other patients? Like, this patient is very loud and obnoxious and terrible to the CNAs and the nurses, and all they tell us is, well, she has rights. Well, she has rights, but so did all the other patients. What can be done about a situation like that?
Did you want? I saw you now. Did you want to?
Question. So the rights of all residents, you're absolutely right, should be respected. So if they are not being respected, then there needs to be a process in place that the nursing home is using to figure out, like, where are the violations happening, or how is a resident encroaching on somebody else's rights, and then what's the plan going to be for addressing that issue. But they should be working to have a plan to address the issue so that people's rights are respected as much as possible. But that could, again, be brought up, directly with the staff through a grievance, or work with the ombudsman, or work through the resident council to address some of those issues. But there should be plans in place for dealing with all of those things.
Lori, thank you. We have 5 minutes.
So we're going to do,
last
I see
couple of
3
questions.
hands. We're going to do one here, Tasha, and then one there, and that's all we're going to have time to do today. But we'll keep them.
This is maybe a question to the Department of Health. What do you see as the main challenges with assisted living in the state? What are some of the gaps also maybe perhaps legislatively?
That's a good question. So assisted livings are kind of a separate, the way that we license assisted livings in Connecticut is unique from other states. Whereas we license the services, we don't license necessarily the buildings themselves. So what we have oversight over is the services that are being provided. So not to get too deep into the weeds, but where the services are being provided is referred to as the managed residential community. So that's where, where the services are being provided. But, it's assisted livings are a little bit different in Connecticut.
And ours, James, to your point, I'm back here. Whoa. Our assisted living are different. So Elon has experience in a lot of states. Connecticut is different because you have the local authority doing over the sort of the housing part of it, and then DPH is over the actual service, like a home care service related to the services being provided. So we are set up in a little bit of a different way. Who?
Bill Liston? Oh.
Who's Bill Liston? Bill, can you raise your hand? Your right is here, and I don't know where Bill is.
Over here, first, Marie.
Enfield? Okay, I got a question right here, and then we'll go over there, and then we'll come here. This will be the last one.
All right, my name's Hunter. I work at a nursing home in New Milford. I don't know if it's commentary or question, but I'm hearing everyone with like the food quality is not great. We're not spending a lot. There's not a lot of staffing. I'm wondering if we're looking into like these owners of these nursing homes. They're part owners in the food company. They're part owners in the agency company. And they act like there's all these exorbitant costs, but it's a snake eating its own tail. And is there anything to be done about like the monopoly they hold on these buildings, and they quote everything's too expensive, but they own the other company that's too expensive. So is there like anything to be done about that? Are we looking into that?
Yes,
Yes.
That's a huge problem. It's,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, go for it. Oh, I was just going to say, we have passed legislation in Connecticut, but just in recent years where the reports that they would provide to us would have to show us what they own, so that's that transparency piece again, so that we can have the information to then be able to take action. We were coming from a place where we had heard it from folks, but we didn't have the actual information. And so my hope is now that we're going to be getting that, we can move forward and change stuff.
We have one more
Yeah,
question.
one
This
more.
is the last question today. So here you go.
Yes, I would like to know what's the procedure of a resident threatening another resident?
Oh, what's the procedure if you have one resident threaten another resident? Jane, I'll take a hit. You go first, James, then I'll go.
So the first thing I would say is to let somebody in the facility know, so that they can take away the immediacy and the threat. But you can file a grievance with the facility. You can contact the ombuds person. You can file a complaint with DPH. But
all those things. I'm going to say making sure that someone knows in the building as soon as that's happening, really identifying that to someone you're connected to, and then having them escalate it as appropriate so that it gets addressed. I know we have other hands up, but we do have to wind down. Susan, I see your hand. I know unfortunately we are at time. I know, Susan, I see your hand. Call it out for me, quick.
Yes.
For so long.
It's often very advantageous to you to file a grievance, but there is so much retaliation coming from either aides or other nurses or whoever's affiliated with the person that you filed the grievance against. I mean, what do you do? Because who can you file a grievance to get the matter taken care of if nobody's going to act on it? I filed a grievance 3 weeks ago. No one has done a thing.
I want to know more about, because I'm going to have somebody look at that for you, because they should be responding to grievances as soon as they're filed. So I know that people's rides are here. A lot of people have had to leave, but I want to give a big round of applause to our panel, our moderator. Thank you so much. This was awesome, and we got a lot of great information out. I want to thank everybody for coming this year. We do have a couple of door prizes left. I don't know if that's something, Catherine, you're
Yes.
standing there. There's a
Yes.
box below you. Pull out a number and see if the person's still here and they can get a prize. Yep.
Yes. Okay.
All right, we're gonna pull out
Here
some.
we go. Ticket number 458387.
Is 387 still here?
458387.
All right, pull another.
All right.
Oh wait. Okay, yay!
Woo, big winner. Congratulations.
Keo's coming for you right there. Two more. I
Two
think.
more. All right, we've got 458304. 304.
Oh,
Yep.
yay! 304.
All right.
Okay, and one more.
One last
That's
one.
that one. Talk to Keo right here. Yep.
And 458323. 323. Yay!
Okay,
Congratulations.
so how about that? People were serious. So thank you all for making it another wonderful Voices Forum. Woo. Thank you to all our participants. All right.
Okay, these are the.
Intense DPH heavy.
Yes.
Good job. First I was going to say that, and then she's running for Congress. Hi. I'm good.
Awesome. Good to see you. Thank you. Hey, nice to meet you. Good. Thanks for